Good morning. All right, let's see. Get those headsets connected. All right, good morning. Hi there. Hope you're having a good one. And let me open the chat. All right. So let's go to the chat. And there you go. All right, let's see who is arriving. Hi, Ian. Nice to see you
Hello.
today. Hope it went well yesterday or 2 days
Yeah,
ago.
I'm sorry
at the
I couldn't be here
meeting.
yesterday.
No, thanks for popping in like I asked you to. That was perfect. Hey, Monica.
Hi, this is Moni.
Hey, Moni, there you are.
Yeah.
MKBS.
Yeah, I'm in the car, and so I
Perfect.
have the other one. I'll log into my computer as soon as I get back.
That's fine.
Thanks.
So thank you guys who make the effort of joining in, even as much as you can when you have other stuff to do. It really makes a difference for me being able to claim your attendance, which makes these free classes actually happen. So let me see who else is here. Hi, Alyssa, and
Hi, morning.
hi, Deirdre is here, and Shelly, and Monica. Sometimes names have different pronunciation even, but Mother and Moni. Hi, Miguel and Julie. And oh, Amy's right here too. All right, looks like the crowd is in. So I need to have my own little tech support with session because now it's the second day that I cannot connect to VDI. Like literally, it just tells me that there's a tech issue, both my computers. So I have had zero time. It's been crazy the last 2 weeks since Thanksgiving. And this started happening yesterday. So I'm going to try to get on them this afternoon. But if anyone has VDI and has any issues and I have to help you, I'll have you share your screen because I can't even demo it anymore. All right. Now, next thing. I got a request today on email that I'm going to honor first of all before we begin. And it had to do with why are we using so many programs? Why are we using these 3 programs, right? Most people kind of know Photoshop is for photos, Illustrator to create stuff. But what are really InDesign and Bridge doing the way we're using them here in the class? Because, handling 3 programs might seem complicated to start with when they're all new to you. And basically it's a trio. These programs could have all been one if programs could be so complicated that they get to occupy your entire computer. But each one has a dedicated thing they do separately. That said, there's a lot of overlap. So there's things that if you do with one, you could do with the other, then why bother having 2, right? And so that tends to happen a bit with Illustrator and InDesign. The InDesign is made for Illustrator is made for creating something from scratch, something new that's an illustration, a logo, a piece of art. We did some fancy lettering the other day. Well, fancy meaning we put some shape into it. We distorted something and turned it into something that's not just, so that's Illustrator, okay? Oh, okay. Got it. I just I just got a message in the chat that I was reading. Okay, yeah, thanks for as much as you can. All right. And then back my brain back to what I was saying. So Illustrator is somewhere where you create source content, actual material that you're going to use in your pieces. You might be creating banners, you might be creating shapes and things like that. It also has a possibility of doing some layout in it if what you're doing is a simple piece, a one-page piece. So if all you're doing is, say, a wine label or flyers. I mean, I'm not trying to minimize it. You could also do big on, movie posters or whatever, as long as it's one piece, one page piece. Illustrator works well. And it works basically almost identically for that type of thing as would InDesign. But InDesign, on the other hand, allows you to lay out anything, any shape. It's like industrial design. You can create this, complicated box with all of its inner parts and the shape of everything. And, packaging is a big deal. You can create, of course, books, anything multi-page. As soon as you move up to, you move from a page to anything that has to be, paginated, brochures, booklets, anything that has to do with that. Ebooks, interactive PDFs, mobile apps. Like there's so much that InDesign can do as far as laying it out the shape, and then you bring in the photos from Photoshop, the art you created in Illustrator. So it's the place where everything gets gathered to make that final piece. I used to work in a company where we designed everything from stationery, gifts, lots of packaging, shower curtains. I mean, I don't know what we didn't design. It has to be laid out as a template in InDesign, and then you bring in the source material that makes it look the way it looks, right? And if you're going to do a lot of work with text layout, all those things that have all this like really complicated text layout, and InDesign is a place to do that. It's the master handler of text. So they each have their strength, but there is some overlap. Photoshop can handle some vector files. Illustrator can do some basic layout. The one that, so InDesign can do, of course, some of the things that Illustrator can do. Photoshop and InDesign have no overlap. So it's kind of in that order. So those are the reason we use those three programs in particular. Before I go on to explain Bridge, is that clear? Any more questions about that? Any follow-up to that? I'm trying to remember. I got the email this morning and I'm not 100% sure who asked.
It was me.
Okay.
I think the thing I'm a little confused about is the application of Bridge.
Okay, so first those three, and now I'm going to go on with Bridge. Okay, so but is that clear what InDesign is for?
Yes.
As opposed to Illustrator?
Yeah, thank you.
And that's not to say that sometimes I could open and see, I'm going to do it in this one or in that one. When you don't know InDesign, you make do with Illustrator for laying out stuff, right? And since InDesign is much more a professional program, if anyone knows anything, it's Photoshop. If anyone knows anything more, it's Illustrator. By the time you get to InDesign, it's people who are really doing serious work. So sometimes that's where people stop, Photoshop and Illustrator, but that's not to say that there's many more programs that add richness. And then there's the fact that all of this source art that I'm talking about that goes into making a piece can be spread all over your computer. It could be anywhere, whatever. And when you create a piece, it's at some point you have to collect all that stuff and put it in one place, right? Because it's going to be everything. It's like you're cooking and you have, things in the pantry over there, things in over there. You're going to bring all your ingredients together to make that cake out. Okay. Give me a second because sorry about that. I normally would never answer if I'm in the middle of a class, but my husband knows exactly my schedule. And if he calls me, and the other time he called me, he had an accident, fortunately a minor one. but now I'm like, oh my God, he called me, he's out there, he's biking. And my first thought is, did something happen? And so, yeah, no, he needed to tell me something, but he had, it's not an emergency. I can help him later. So I was like, no, the only phones I answer when I'm teaching is calls from kids' school, because, maybe they broke a leg or something, or from, in this case, I know my husband is doing a road bike and there's so many accidents that I'm always a little bit paranoid. Anyway, sorry about that. So I was talking about what Bridge does. So Bridge is a program. So I was saying how you have to collect all your ingredients and open them. And yeah, I don't know if you've had experience with multiple types of materials, but if you are a Windows or a Mac user, if you just find your files all over the place using, say, the Windows Explorer is what Windows uses, or the Finder window, which is what the Mac uses, they could be everywhere. Plus, if I were to open a JPEG anywhere, it would not know to open itself in Photoshop. If I were to open a PDF, it wouldn't think of open itself in Photoshop. If I just open things from the main finders in Mac and PC Windows. Bridge is basically a finder. At the way we're using it, it does more stuff, but right now it's a finder, as if and some people don't even know what I'm talking about, a finder. If you're a Windows user and don't use the Windows Explorer to find stuff, then you might not know. Or if you're a Mac user and don't use the Finder to find stuff, you don't know. So those are the two programs that allow us to go and discover where our files are all over the computer. Bridge is that, but in particular, it's made by Adobe, and it allows us to do much more than that. So if you need to organize your photos in a way with categories and levels and documentations that need to be handled, like catalogs and things like that, Bridge would be the place to do that kind of stuff. There's so much it does that we're not even beginning to apply here in this class. But it also is a great transition, because here I have people who are Mac users. Some of people are on Windows, Mac, some people are on their Chromebook, some people are on VDI. And Bridge is consistent in that whenever I show you images that to collect, we can have one same way to find our images that looks the same for every single person in the class. So it's crucial to use it in this class in particular. But also, it allows us to explore all the metadata of our files before we open them up to see if they're appropriate. So there's just like, I can open raw files and work on them in Bridge. There's so much stuff that Bridge does. Although I do see that in this class, I'm focusing on just using it as a place to open files, as a place to see of all our files together and look at the metadata and open them up. So we're reduced to just one feature of Bridge, but that helps me show something that everyone uses the same way. So it's like a connector. It's a place where everything goes to land and lets me explore my computer from the point of view of, if I want to open you and I open you from Bridge, you're going to open in one of my Adobe products and nowhere else. So if I open a JPEG in Bridge, it'll open in Photoshop. If I open, a PDF, it'll open in, like, it knows what to open when it encounters a type of file when you're using the Adobe suite of products. Okay. So right now it's basically being used by us as a way for everyone to see things the same way. It's hard enough, you saw, when I have to handle differences with people's different computers. If on top of that I had to have people show how to look for something on Mac or the PC or the Bridge or the Finder or the whatever, so that it makes it easier for teaching. And all three programs do much more than what I'm showing you. And what we're doing is scratching the basics of all of what they can do. So, so that said, any other question about that before I share my screen? You might find on your own personal life that if you know exactly where your files are and you use your Finder really well, and you know not to open a JPEG from the Finder, but to go open it from inside of Photoshop or inside of Illustrator, you might find that Bridge, until you know more of its functions, might not be so necessary on a personal level. All right, how's that going? Any other thing you want to know about that kind of stuff? Nope. All right, Mark, thank you for your messages about all the support you're getting from Katie in tech support helping you. She reached out to me too. You reached out to me. And then I actually met you. I was teaching a class in person yesterday, and in the hallways I met Mark. It's so cool when I see people who I've only met through little window boxes when I see you guys in person. So that was cool. I was running to another appointment, so we didn't get a chance to really talk too much, but it was cool to see you. All right. So now it's time to start with the class. I have a request that you're welcome to, pay attention to or not, which is if you are in a situation where, there's no kids running around and you're okay with turning on your video, I really would prefer to see faces here and there other than just blank boxes. So if you can turn on your video, that's really helpful to me. But if you're in a situation where that really actually is a problem, then don't worry. I'm not trying to put this on as a guilt trip, just as a request from me. That's all. All right. So here's our Padlet. And in case you haven't yet, let me go over here and get the link. In case you haven't put the work in Padlet that you've been doing, I'm putting up the link right now in the chat so that you can come up and put your stuff. But I'm seeing quite a few people posted their little baby gender reveal invitation that we're doing and all of the research. And I'm seeing one of you guys went ahead with putting in some of the text that we were talking about. So anyway, we are going to find out some other stuff about how images link and don't link. So for now, we're going to continue with the same file. Does everyone have it? I know some of you might have not been here before the last class. Ian, I know you weren't able to attend. Do you have this file to continue with, or I guess I can
No, but I'm
provide
sure I
it
can catch up.
to you in the class. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so we'll do that. So, and it doesn't really matter if you make the balloon a different color. All we need right now is for you to make make an InDesign document. I'm going to tell you the size and then just bring in the balloon. And then we made a baby in Illustrator that we distorted and we brought it in. What matters is that this not be written in InDesign, that it be something from Illustrator and the balloon be from Photoshop. And now I'm going to tell you why as soon as we begin to work. So I'm going to just kind of run through that again, the explanations of why. And then beyond that, we talked a lot about metadata. And so I'm seeing some screenshots here of metadata, trying to explain the whole conversation of resolution and why one image is appropriate and one is not. So anyway, there's more conversation than that. But anyway, that's what we covered last week. So now let's go ahead and I'm going to shift over to Bridge and head over to the Digital Landscape Techniques class images. And we had, just as a review of the most salient and important points regarding resolution, we were working on this file to start with, the one that has the white balloon, and we went over here to see, okay, and this is that thing that I'm saying that Bridge is, where's Padlet located? I just put the link here. I'll put it again. Oh, there's a link. Click on that link and it'll open up. I'm just answering Julie in the chat when I did the link of the Padlet. There it is. Click on the link that I just posted and it'll open up your Padlet window. So here we are in InDesign trying to decide if this photo is going to work or not for the product I'm making, which is a little gender reveal, save the date or invitation, more than a save the date, invitation to a party. And so we first need to decide what the image is going to be used for. So if I'm going to be using this for a, big old 16 by 20 portrait of my son to put in the middle of my living room, versus if I'm going to make it fit into a, postcard size 4-ish by 6-ish card, or if I'm gonna put this photo up in the you know, on the internet and have a little blog about how to celebrate, you know, how to how activities to do in a gender reveal party blog. Those are three very different needs for this photo. And before I even decide to use it, I need to see if it's appropriate based on its resolution, based on the basic facts of how appropriate is this image to work. So now I'm being more specific about why we would use Bridge for that, because I can explore all the photos I have for this and say that I have, you know, many different options. And I'll go over here and I'll look at how many pixels it has. And I'll look at the resolution it's going. I'll look at the color space it's working in. So this metadata is all that information, the background information that we just look at the balloon and go, is it cute? Or the baby, is it cute? But it doesn't tell us if it's a photo that I can be using for all these products. This information tells us that. And that's when we go, well, I can't tell because since it says that it's 72 PPI, that number is fake. 53 inches by 39 inches is fake. There's no way I can print this and make it look good. It'll be this blurry, disastrous thing. So I know that I need to alter that relationship, and I can just pick up a calculator and figure it out myself here, or I've slowly become accustomed to knowing how many pixels go. Otherwise, I have to open it in Photoshop and fix that relationship, make it 300, or B, and this is what I was demonstrating last week, you just bring it in as is into InDesign, and then you work on that link to figure out how to make that PPI be effective PPI be at least 300 PPI. So that's the technical stuff that we did last week. We're going to do dig in a little bit more. But then at this point I can go, oh, well, this photo is going to work for my invitation, but it certainly won't work for my poster. So maybe I need to go and use this one for my poster or that one for my poster. And I start going over here and look at it, go, oh, this has even less pixels. If that one didn't make it, then this will make it even less, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So we do a lot of exploring. I haven't even gone to this side of it where there's collections and cataloging, and where you get to rate your images, you get to put all of your, if you're worried about publishing photos and having them not be stolen, and you have to put all of the material, all the data of your copyrights, all that kind of stuff, this is the place to go. Bridge allows you to work on this metadata, the background material of your image. If you take my Photoshop class, you'll see that we use Bridge to open and edit raw photos. So right now, let's go ahead and open the file that we've been working on, which was, and I'm going to go to InDesign. We were working on this little guy here. So if you have it somewhere, and I'm going to zoom in, just for me to show Ian, you need to create a document in InDesign that's just a one page, and it's going to be 554 in width and 421 in height. Is there anyone else here who did not have this created? Were you all here the other day? I know some people were looking in but weren't able to, you know, were on their phone or something and couldn't create it, because we're going to keep moving forward. What's that, Mark?
Still working on it, but I don't want to slow anybody down. I'm still working on it. It's okay.
You're working on it. Okay, that's fine. You can listen in, and then I know that you've been doing things on your time and with Katie's help. Thank you, Mark, for doing that. Okay, so right now, all we need then is a new document in that's 547 by 421. Then you need to bring in this photo and how we brought it, and don't bother going and changing them into green or anything for now. Just bring in this photo by placing it. You can do by doing File, Place, or Command or Control D. And when you do that, you get this is what I call the Finder window if you're in a Mac. If you're in a PC, you would get the Windows Explorer, which lets you find material. And then you go and open up the file, which the flat file without the layers is called Boy Pexels or something like that. Yeah, I think it's called Boy Pexels. And then when you open it in, we discovered that if we just click, it just is humongous. humongous, right? I mean, really humongous to the point that all we're seeing is this is how humongous it is. All we're seeing is a little bit of the white. That explains, and so the balloon would be around here. That would be the baby here. That represents what we just saw in Bridge. That represents that this image is actually showing up as a 53-inch by 39.4-inch photo, because that how this photo is set up. It's set up as a 53 by 79. So when I bring it in to InDesign, I simply click my mouse. What I'm getting here is, look at the weight and size of this box. It says 53 by 39. And that's unusable. That's not something that's going to work for us. We could resize it right now, or I'm going to hit delete to get rid of that. Or we can just make a better job of bringing it in by clearing, but by that when we do bring it in and say open, and we have it here, we're just going to click and drag to make it be a size that's appropriate to be handled within this document. That's only, you know, about 4 by 6. So if you click, the image expands to whatever it's set up, and that metadata that you read in Bridge would tell you how big it's going to set up at. And if you click and drag, you can actually control exactly what size you want it to drop into. So that's the big difference when you bring in a photo, when you import an image. Now, once we've imported this image, and this is the portion that really matters as far as the metadata of this photo, we still don't know. Is it going to work for the size I want it? You need to open up the links panel. And if you haven't opened it yet at all, just kind of clicking on this link, it will open up the links panel. But if you've already done it, which we all did last week, then you will see it kind of hiding here, and that's your links panel. If for any reason this disappeared and you don't have the links finder handy, then head up to the very top of your screen and go up to the window menu, and every single possible panel is available that you need to open, and then go ahead there and find your links panel and open it up, and then you'll get this message here. And now this message is showing us metadata. Okay, and by the way, you might not see it this way if it's the first time you open your links panel. It might be this tiny window, and I recommend everyone to click and drag from the very bottom line and open it longer, because metadata, there's a lot of metadata to an image. So when I click on the name of this file, because it has been linked in, see there's a little chain link there on baby and that I linked in, and on boy gender reveal that I linked in, then here I have, this looks like exactly like what we had in Bridge, but there's one new thing. First of all, it's telling me, it's not exactly, because one thing it doesn't have is that dimensions of 53 and all that, because it knows that that's not useful. The only thing it really tells me is the actual PPI, which we knew from Bridge that the PPI was 72. Okay, so it tells us that. But then, let me go back to InDesign. But then it has another, this is the real important guy, effective PPI. I noticed that in the screenshots, someone also opened up the info window in the, here, let me just tell you for people who want a version B of how to do it. Over here, someone showed an info window. Who posted an info window? Because it was a great, another way to, I think someone had posted. Pretty sure someone, I remember going, oh yeah, an info window would do it too.
I think it's further down.
Is it further down? Well, I know one of you guys put, anyway, I don't want to confuse this. Someone else posted a different place where you can read, if you find it, show me again. There's other places where you can find this information. But in this case, I prefer, I sometimes I have the info window open for other reasons, but in here, by clicking on the link, okay, that I brought into InDesign, I get all of the information that I want all in one. And the effective PPI is the number that we want to make sure is bigger than 300, which in this case, yep, it is bigger than 300. What that means is that we've shrunk that image from those big 53 inches down to, at this point, we've made it, and went right here, I dragged it into be about 3.5 by 3 inches. And at that size, this photo is fine. I have squished it in enough that all my pixels that I had, when you fit them into each inch, if I only have 3 inches, then that ends up with 1,000 pixels in each one of those inches. So this is going to print well. Let me just do that one more time. When I bring it in and I simply click, and I just bring in the photo as is, and I click on that link, it's telling me that the actual PPI that was 72 and the effective PPI is also 72. That's it. That brings in that original image that I had that I could see in Bridge. That's what's happening. So what we want to do is, so that's not going to work. Even if we were to make a document that big, it would still look horrible, because that number is not 300 or bigger. So I'm going to instead make it fit this thing. And at first what we did, we made it fit the whole size of the window that we had, to see if it was going to work. Now, the other thing that we learned last week, so okay, so now that was review at this point, that was pretty important, but so there's nothing new there, but it's a re-explanation of stuff that is not that clear or easy to understand, and that you might still have questions about. So this is the time to ask me anything about that which I've been saying right now before I move on to the other links. Let me see. Anything about that? PPI, effective PPI, links. Why we link into an image? We link into an image because if we, well, I'm going to show you more today about why we link into an image. That's one of today's things that I'm going to show you. But at this point, I've given you the example that if you are going to print a publication that has many, many photos, if you were to, the opposite of linking would be embedding an image into this program, into InDesign, then your file, you have the InDesign file itself, plus the size of this photo, plus the size of another photo, plus the size of the illustration, and it becomes this big, like, unwieldy package. It's one thing to carry, 4, packages than to carry one humongous box full of everything. And, I have to call on someone strong to do that versus carrying it in 4 different parts and pieces. And so InDesign, by linking these files, you end up with the InDesign file plus right now we have 2 files that are connected to it in different ways. And that's what we did. Now, to resize your photo from here to any other shape, if we click on this auto fit box in there, which you would find as long as you have selected your photo, otherwise it's not there. Select your photo, click on the auto fit, and then you can make this bigger or smaller, and you'll be resizing both your frame and your container at the same time. Then make sure to have auto fit. Otherwise, you need to do shortcuts on your mouse. And then next thing we discovered is that my photo keeps being on top of the baby, because first we brought in the baby and then we brought in the photo. At least we did that the other day. And this is how I'm doing it now. And now I can't see the baby. I mean, I can move it around, but it's literally on top of the baby. So something I showed for the first time last class is that we also have layers in InDesign. And in this case, this isn't one layer and that another layer. This is all the same layer, but we have 2 elements. Okay, and they are stacked in such a way that that guy is underneath this one. So we go to the layers, which again, if you've opened your links, it's right above it, right there. But if you don't see it, go up to Windows again and open your layers panel. So any panel you don't see, you go up to the word window and then you open, and then the layers will open. And when it first opens, it shows us that there's just one layer. It's just one layer in this document. And what's in it, I go to this little window and click on that, and then it expands to show me my 2 elements, this one and this one. So now the baby is in the bottom because I brought it in first. The balloon boy is on top because I brought it in second. That's the only reason. So now I can move these up and down, and I'm going to go grab this one and drag it down. So now I put the boy behind the baby. Or I could have just grabbed the baby and brought it up front. It doesn't matter which way you do it. The whole point was to get the baby in front of the boy. So now that the order that I want those to be established, I can, don't use up all this real estate, especially on a small screen. Collapse this again, either with the double-headed arrow or just click on the layers again. So we open and we close that, we open and we close that, just to kind of get them out of the way when I don't need them. And now I'm left with these two. Now, baby wasn't written in InDesign, it was written in Illustrator. And it came in a container, which is this placeholder that's holding it. In Illustrator, we call it a bounding box, and in design, we call it a placeholder. This photograph is in its container. So these blue boxes are containers that hold it. And then we have the margin lines and the bleed lines and the trim lines. And it becomes really hard to look at this and go, is this a good design? Because I can't even process that. So who remembers what's the quick way to see this image without all of these containers and placeholders and guides and stuff? What should I do?
That's W.
Yeah, go to your keyboard and click the W key, and it changes your preview mode. If you forget what key to do, it's down here, the final box of all my toolboxes. If I click on that, there's normal preview, there's preview, which is the one we just chose. There's also bleed preview, which is you want to see it this way, but you want to include the bleed. So now it included the bleed to make sure that you're in the safe margins, right? And then there's the slug, which includes, we don't have a slug in this one, so it isn't meaningful. I've only used a slug like 3 times in my life. We rarely use a slug. It's where you put instructions to the printer. Now we put instructions to the printer in a different place. And so, yeah, it's not so much in use anymore. And then if you're showing this to a client who has a hard time imagining if they're going to like it like that, then the final one is this one. And you get to it doing Shift W instead of just W. And so I'm going to click on this one. And basically it shows you in big size with none of the design tools, none of that. It just goes there and shows you exactly what you need to see. And when you hit Escape or Shift W again, you get out of that. So this is a good one to show when you want to
Diane,
just look at the piece. Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
seeing, I see the view and I did the W, but I don't
Mhm.
see the subcategories below that view or preview
Yeah,
box.
so it's possible that because of the resolution of your monitor, you don't see all of your tools. So if so, at the very top of your tools is a little double-headed arrow that you can click on to make 2 rows of them. And then you'll see everything down to the very bottom because it's just hiding below. It's just out of your range. And that's where you would see them all. Okay. Yeah. And so then this also, forget that one. Preview. Yeah, there we go. That's all the different views.
No,
Okay.
I still don't
And
have
then,
it. Still don't have it.
okay, so let me see, share your screen so that I can help you find it. Okay, yeah, there it is. It's that box, click and hold your mouse. There it is.
Oh,
And those are all your different
didn't hold.
options. Okay.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
I didn't. hold that
and
one.
no, yeah, there's only so much space for the different tools, and so they hide them under one. So all the
Thank
different preview modes are under one little icon. Okay, great. That for the most part catches us up. Oh, one more thing in Illustrator. So let me open my Illustrator file. The last thing is that in Illustrator, here was my my file. In Illustrator, I had made a document that was much bigger, right, than the baby that I wrote. I didn't make it the size I wanted because I didn't know how I was going to move it, distort it, or anything I was going to do. So I have all this other space around it. But the object, we call them objects in Illustrator, the actual element, okay, or object that I created is a certain size. And over here, if I want to see it, it's actually the way I first designed it is 2.5 by 1.5-ish shape. So when I brought that into InDesign as a file, it just brought me the baby. It didn't bring me all that extra space. That extra space in Illustrator is just there for us to see the shape. So if I'm designing something in here, this is just background for me to see it. And just really quickly, let me show you that you could choose to not see that background and you to see the transparency grid. And you'll see that there's nothing there. It's just a holder, and that this is the only element that's in this document. And this is transparency. A grid of white and gray check marks in any Adobe application means transparency. So even though
Diana?
this is that big,
Diana,
Yeah.
can you share your screen again, please?
oh, I stopped sharing. Thank you. Yes, when
You're
I tell
welcome.
someone else to share, thank you, Monica. You always remind me, very helpful. Anyone, this shouldn't be just Monica. Anyone, when I'm saying, look at this, look at that, please speak up and tell me I'm not sharing, which usually will happen after someone else has shared, and then I forget to start the share again. So I believe this whole part was not shown, that the baby is a certain size. And in this case, if I look over here in the properties, it tells me it's 2.5 by 1.3, but I made a big document. The document itself was like, 5 by, who knows, 5 by 5, whatever I made it originally. But the rest of this is nothing. In Illustrator, if I would like to, I go up to the view window and I can show the transparency grid, meaning what's really an element here. And if it's not an element, make it transparent. And that's what I was talking about, where basically I am designing this baby in the middle of nothing. They just conveniently give us a white background for us to see our image, but really this is all that's in this document. And this is just nothing. It's there's not there. So when I bring this into InDesign, all that comes in is that element, that baby. It doesn't bring in the entire document. Photoshop brought in the entire document because pixels filled all the corners all the way edge to edge, but in Illustrator, it doesn't. So again, I turned that transparency on and off by going to view, hide transparency grid, or view, show transparency grid. All right, so now I've collected these two elements in here. And with the selection tool, the black selection tool, we've been moving them around. And I've been just telling you, be careful. The only place you don't want to touch in any of these is that center grabber wheel. I dislike it so much that I actually turned that feature off myself. But for some people, until they know how to use all the different tools, this is actually a good way to move this inside of its frame, but we don't need to do it right now. So just any place that's not the borders and that's not the grabber is safe for you to grab and move this around until you place it in the position that you think is best for your invitation. Now, I'm not necessarily doing a layout yet. I'm just bringing my elements in. And I need to make sure that I'm not putting anything that's important anywhere outside of this margin line. And yet, if I do want something to be color, so I'm going to go ahead and place an image here that has some color to the end. Okay, here, this one, for example. If I bring in this engagement photo, and I just replaced my other one instead of bringing it in. And if this photo had to be right to the edge, cut to the edge, then I would have to make sure that the image does go all the way to the edge. And this is when I really don't like the, hold on. Fit frame to content. This is when I don't like that fit frame to content portion. Never mind. So I would have to place my photo all the way there. But let's look at his arm. I'm seeing almost to his shoulder, right there. Is there anything in this part of the image that's crucial to the photo? Because this for sure will be cut off. That's the bleed, that's extra. And this, if they make a bad cut, would potentially be left in. So that's fine. It's not crucial if they leave it in and out. But now this is where it should be cut. But if potentially they make a mistake, they could cut all the way up into here. That's how far from here to here which is basically a quarter of an inch. That's like an eighth of an inch, an eighth of an inch. So this is a quarter of an inch's worth of space. That's how far the trimmer could get wrong. So I also need to make sure that there's nothing important in this photo past this in case the trimmer cuts to that. So in this photo, first of all, I'll hit my W. And what I see in the W is basically the trim line. What's going to be cut, the part that I'm going to be cut, if it's cut correctly. And yeah, there's nothing that important in this photo that's if it's actually cut correctly, but I need to mentally go, oh, but it could be cut up until here. Thus, is this going to be cut off? And I'll go, no, that's fine. Who cares if I lose the shoulder? It's still good, right? Instead, what I had here, let me just bring again the baby. When we brought the baby in, we discovered that there was a bit of an issue. Because if I tried to make this go all the way to the bottom, and oh, I didn't make it big enough. Hold on. If I tried to make this go all the way to, to the bleed, like if I wanted to put this guy to fill the entire screen, we discovered that, yeah, this is a kind of image where if the trim, if I put the photo all the way to the bleed, because I don't want to lose this little reflection, this guy's on a little reflective background, then we're going to cut the reflection off. But in the regular trim size, we're going to cut a toe off. That's if all goes well. And if all goes badly and it moves further in, then I'm going to actually cut this whole foot off and leave only one toe over here. So this is not a photo that I can take all the way to the bleed unless I do something to it. And someone asked in the questions, how would I expand this? So someone said, well, if I did want to put my my image in here, and so I didn't, if I do make it a bit smaller so that the boys' photos fit within the safety margins, how do I expand the background with white? And that's a great question because if this was just pure white, then that would be easy. You could just, in Photoshop expand it, no problem. But what's going to be a problem is that it isn't pure white. Look how this photo ends. There's a reflection of the baby. Here there's an actual reflection of the baby, and to invent the continuation of this reflection is going to be a little bit harder than just to continue white, which isn't really white. It's a gradient of gray. Now, I'm not going to go a lot into all of the retouching and tools. Photoshop has a bazillion retouching tools, but I'm going to show you one, which is actually the quickest one. And so if you have it open in Photoshop, fine. If not, go into your Photoshop and open up your little green baby or the one that's the layered file. And if you haven't yet, Ian, I told you to bring in this baby, but actually I do need it to be a layered baby. So go in and work on your Photoshop to do something on it. And in this case, we put in a color fill. But just click on this plus sign and make another layer that's empty, but just have it be a layered file. And then save it and then bring that one in because we're going to be using the layered file.
I did.
All right. Cool. So then here we have the limitations of this image. If I try to stretch this out beyond that, I'd be left with a bizarre line. So there's so many intelligent tools that can do this for me right now that we're going to go ahead and try and see if it works. So is everyone back in Photoshop and does everyone have this file open? So now the rest was kind of review, fast explanation. If I lost you somewhere, please stop me and I'll go back. If you're all caught up and you're ready to move on to something completely new, give me a yes. All right, some people are old hats in all these classes. People who are totally new, Shelly, Julie, you're all good too. Mark, I know you're working on catching up. Okay, good. Miguel, perfect. So here's what we're gonna do. And it's not the best photo to do this demonstration because there's so little, to it, but we're gonna do it anyway. First of all, we need to expand this canvas size, right? Because what we want is we want a bit more space down here. So if I look at my files information, how big do we know this image is? Nothing here is telling me how big this image is. Well, if you did turn on your rulers, and if you didn't, it's Command R or Control R turns the rulers on and off. One way where you can look at your file size is looking at these rulers. And yeah, right now this image hasn't yet been resized, and it's sitting at that big old 53 by 40 inches that we saw in Bridge. So how much more do we know that we need to bring up here? Well, this would be a good example of a place where it would be nice to do a resize of this image so that it matches my final shape a little bit more. So if I go into InDesign and I notice that this document was created as 5.5 by 4.2, let's just say, to make it easy, 5.5 by 4.2. Let's go and do that in Photoshop with the resizing feature. And we worked on the resizing feature last week. Let's go to image size. And I'm only seeing, this is why I like to demo this part in the VDI, but VDI is not working because of my windows up on top. So image size. And let's open the image size. And now, keep your answers. As a review, and maybe not so much the people who I know the answer because they've done this before, but maybe some of the people who are new to this class for whom this whole concept is new. How would I safely resize this to 5.5 by 4.2? What do I need to do to this window? Without losing any quality, without adding any pixels, without losing pixels, what do I need to do to resize this? We went over this last class, right?
Yeah, do we do anything
just to
with
make
the
sure.
link? Oh, sorry.
Well, I'm in Photoshop. This is that image that we linked. So in Photoshop, this isn't a link, this is itself.
No.
This is a link inside of InDesign.
Diana,
Oh.
I meant up there in the image size box where it says width and
Oh,
height.
oh.
There's a link between
Oh,
them.
thank you. I got it. Sorry, you said link and I'm thinking this link. Well, we don't want to disconnect these two because then that means that they'll disconnect disproportionately. So we're not going to click on the link per se, but you're right. There's something here that has to happen, which is we need to link the size, width, and height to the resolution so that when I changed one, they all change proportionally. And there's the one most important box here that I told you really think about. And this box is the one that you need to do, which is ta-da. Instead of gender reveal, it's like tool reveal. Okay, those of you who've taken this before and are a bit more clear on the whole image size, what am I talking about? Does anyone have the answer here? Or people who took my Photoshop class this week where we spent a lot of time on resolution? How do I make sure that width, height, and resolution are linked? Okay, because Julie was right. It's about the linking of these elements, but how do I link resolution to these two?
The
Is
resample.
it, deselecting
Yeah.
sample?
Thank you. I got the answer from two of you. Let me call you newbies. New to this conversation, Shelly and Alyssa. You're right. I unclick resample. And now these do all appear linked together. This is now resizing. This is resampling. So what's the difference between resizing and resampling? This word should change to resize when I click this off. I don't know why they don't have that. When this is off, you are resizing, meaning I can change the size of this all I want and the image is safe. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to 300, right? And when I change it to 300, from 53, we went down to like 12.9, 9.4. So that's good because the pixels haven't changed. If I change this to 1000, then what I'm saying is put 1000 pixels in an inch. Well, I'm left with only 3.84 inches. That's all the pixels that I have, right? So these numbers don't affect my image. So I can play around with these as much as I want. So I can actually go ahead and make this image be that 5.5 that I need. And it gives me 4 inches. That said, this isn't this is my trim size, right? Not my bleed size, but that's fine because I wanted those little tootsies, little kids' reflection and toes to be inside the trim size. So say that I do that, we're safe. We just have a very high resolution, but high resolution is not a problem. The problem is low resolution, right? So that's one thing. If instead, let me go back to 72. That's resizing. I can go back and forth, resize all I want, and life is good. If I resample, so if I click this on and I disconnect resolution, then if I make this be 300, I am altering my image to the point that in this case, I'm destroying the quality of this image, because what I just did here is I'm getting you a very, very blurry little kid, because Photoshop had to increase by many millions the amount of pixels. It had to increase the file size from 30 to 500 megabytes. Look at how much bigger it is, because it had to accommodate for all these pixels to make this 53 be printable. But because it's a fake thing that Photoshop is doing, it doesn't even do a good job. And this baby right now, I'm looking at 100% resolution, he is blurry and icky, and that's how my print is going to look, which is really bad. But I'll get a 50-inch print if I could find a printer that can do 50 inches. So that's the destructive one where things mess up. So I don't want that. I'm going to go ahead and put this back at 72 to bring it back to where it was. And I'm going to be safe by unclicking this. And unless I truly need to, I'm never going to resample. I'm just going to resize. Okay. So now, if all of this got messed up and you don't know where you are, just say cancel so that you don't make a real mistake here. And then let's open image size again so that this goes back to its original numbers. And now turn off resample and put a little 300 in there so that we end up with something that is safe. And in fact, let's go back to InDesign. What size do we really need this photo to be? And this is called, right sizing, meaning if I were to put this photo in a business card, the right size might be 2x1. But for this postcard, what's the right size if I want this photo to fill my entire document that I'm making? And if the document is 5.4, let me hit the W so you see my length. If the document is 5.4 by 421, what's happening is that number is the size of the trim. It's just that size of the trim. See my mouse? It's that one. It's not the bleed. So what I really need though is my photo to be the size of the trim, but it's not proportional. Look at this box. It's bigger or smaller. It doesn't fit into the trims. I have to either get rid of some or cut some out. So basically what I need to do is add space. And so we're going to add to that photo. We're going to add, here it says there's 4 inches, this is 5 inches. I probably need to add, let's say, bit more than a 1/4 inch. Let's say that we need to add about let's just go with 1/2 inch to the bottom of this image, okay, to be safe. We need to add about 1/2 inch in Photoshop. And hopefully with, the artificial intelligence context aware tools in Photoshop, we might be able to get it to imitate a good reflection shape. Let's see if Photoshop can do that for us. Let's head over to Photoshop. And let's make this be, oh, sorry, what did I say? 5.547. So we're going to make this Photoshop document width 5.47 and hit return. So now we have this be the exact trim size of the document. Yeah.
Diana,
What would have,
I think I got lost somewhere with that.
Mhm.
I'm on the same screen you are, but I don't see how resized it
I went
there.
to image size.
So, okay,
I turned off the resample. And then
Okay.
I changed the width from 53 something to 5.47.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Now, that's not why, that's not tall enough. We should have 4.2 or something. It's not tall enough, right? And on top of that, what's the danger to this image? I made it exactly 5.7. I'm just trying to get you guys to think. I wasn't going to go so deep into this right now, but it is an important conversation, so I'm taking 5 extra minutes to go a little bit deeper. If 5.47 is the size of my trim, let's go back to InDesign. Do you remember where we got the number 5.7 for 21? You remember where we picked that size up?
Postcard size.
Yeah, I was gonna actually tell you to do some research on sizes, and there's so much other stuff going on. I did a quick little search, and I went to one printer called Vistaprint, and I got from them the template sizes of what a postcard size that they print has to be. So write this down as homework in case I don't say it anymore. I want you guys to do some research from a couple of different printer vendors and do screenshots of the specs of the different spec sizes that people have. Choose a product, a business card or a postcard, or, you know, like something that we all think is always the same size, because brochures can be different sizes, but you know, a postcard, you say postcard, you think, oh, postcard. A business card, you think, oh, business card. But if you go and research 2 or 3 different printers online, or 10 different ones, you'll see that each one of them has a minutely different size that is the right size for them if you design it for them. So go ahead and do that and take screenshots of a couple of those, and then print your what you find. Okay, you might find that maybe 2 different printers have the same size, but a third one doesn't. And then you need to basically decide, if I print it with this printer and I want 100 copies, it'll cost me this much. Okay, I'm going to go with this printer. Okay, that's the size I'm going to use, right? And then you start designing your product. So this is all the stuff that needs to be before you start. Because if you just design your postcard and then you go with a different printer, you might end up cutting it out or cutting it in a different way than it's supposed to be, right? And sometimes it's not hard to adapt and modify, and other times it's a disaster to adapt and modify, depending on how deeply careful you are. All right, so that's where we got that number. So homework, at least 2, hopefully 3 different printers, look up their specs for a product, and then do screenshots and post them in Padlet so that we can compare the difference of how different printers' specifications, which is the sizes of their template. They might tell you other stuff. The specs might tell you it needs to be 300 PPI. They might call it DPI. Some people call it DPI because, as from the printer side of it, the DPI stands, instead of pixels per inch, which is what we care about, for printers, they care about DPI, which is dots per inch, which is dots of ink that fall in each one of those inches, because they use the printer that drops the ink. Anyway, so you might see DPI and PPI used like the same thing, which it isn't technically, but in this case, it means the same thing. All right. So, so here's the problem. Tell me, and I'm gonna just take this out of the way so you don't even have to think about it for a second, if you have no image here. If this, look at these lines, okay, and this is the one where I'm gonna ask you guys to use what I've been teaching you and think a little bit. This document's trim size, we just decided, was 5.47, right? That's a trim size. If I want this image to go full bleed, because it's actually not white, it's a light gray, and it has a toe reflection. If I want this image to go full bleed, what size should it be in Photoshop? It's okay, anyone can answer, even if you know that you know it from before. Is 5.47 a good size for my Photoshop image? Nope. You see how Monica's going, Yeah, and many of you might be going, but I don't see your videos. So, no, because if this image is 5.7 in Photoshop, then it's going to fit exactly right into the trim size, but it won't have leftover for the bleed. Does that make sense? So in Photoshop, this image has to be the trim size plus 1/8 of an inch here, and 1/8 of an inch there, and 1/8 of an inch there, and 1/8 of an inch there. So I actually need to make this photo bigger than the trim size so that I have left over for the trim, for the bleed. So basically I need to add 1/4 of an inch because 8 + 8 is 1/4 of an inch. So I'm gonna head over to Photoshop and I'm gonna actually go to my image size and I'm going to say, let's make this be, it's easier for me to calculate if this is 5.5 plus 1/4, that would be 5.75, right? Am I losing you guys here? So 575, and I'm gonna take 3 under 572, yeah. So let's all go in Photoshop in the image size and write 5.72. 0.72. Yep, Shelley?
In my image size, for some reason, my numbers in the boxes aren't the same as yours, and I think it's because my image size is 1.18 M instead of the 331.5.
Image size here in Photoshop?
Yes.
31 point M. Oh, okay. So maybe maybe head back into your history and see if at any point you created, let's back out from image size and see if in your history you have any other place where you did an image size where you might have kind of changed the proportions.
Okay.
It might have happened the other day, in which case it wouldn't be in your history, yeah. So it might not be proportionally correct right now, but how much did you say? By how much? Why don't you here share your screen so I can look at it for a second. I kind of thought this part might take 5 minutes and it's taking a bit longer and I don't want to bog down in so much technicality. I'm going to lose you guys, but I'm gonna, now that I'm here, I'm gonna do it. But yeah, let's try to move forward. So in Photoshop, your sizes are, yeah, I see an image size way up in your history behind brush tool. Like if you go all the way up to that, yeah, up, go up to image size. No, this is the third thing down.
All of my Zoom stuff is in the way, so I'm trying to.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, move your Zoom stuff a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, so now you see it says open blend tool, and then there's an image size, the third thing down.
Uh-huh.
So that's where you might have done a distortion to it.
Okay.
So you would have to go all the way up to the brush tool again. Problem is that you're going to get rid of all your blending change and color change and all that. But that would be in your history when you probably did something that distorted it. But it seems like it's only by a little bit distorted. So we can live with it. Go up to the image size and let's see.
This?
Go to the actual image size tool. Go up to the window and open up your image size so we can see what you've got going.
Oh.
Go up at the top. Yeah.
Oh,
Forget
okay.
the history now. Let's actually open the window and let's see how different it is. And it looks like you have 5.40. Go ahead and say cancel so that we start it from 0. Here you already moved. You moved and you did stuff. So go open it again. And yours is 5.47 by 4, and mine says 421. So at some point, that third step that you did the other day, you somehow changed it. You probably had this little link turned off and you changed one and the other one didn't, and it went and it distorted a bit. It's not a big deal at this point. It's, a bit of an inch. So just using your numbers, if you make this be 5.75, go ahead and do that. 5.75 ish, 5.73
Per width,
width,
okay,
5.73. You end up with a height of 4.2, which is similar-ish enough. When I do that, and I go with, stay with me. If I go 5.73, then I end up with 4.202. Oh, it's the same.
Hmm.
Why do you have only a 1.1 megabyte? Oh. Oh, look at your, okay, you had even pointed, look at your pixels. Yeah. Okay. So you know what's really wrong here? It's not the proportions, but the fact that at your third step last week, when we had given an example of losing pixels, then we brought them all back and we kept working, and then we did all the blending mode changes, and you kept working on the tiny little one, the one that we made very small. So right now you don't have enough resolution. You have only 750 pixels. Well, we have, 4,000 pixels. At this point, don't worry, because that was something that didn't happen at the beginning. Go ahead and say okay to this, right? And in your history, if you were to go fix that problem, you'd have to go all the way to the beginning, and you'd have to redo the color, the balloon change, and all of that. For now, just that's fine. If you try to print this, you'll have a very, very bad quality baby, but we're not really printing this, so it doesn't matter. The mistake it was made so long ago that you would have to redo everything, and we just don't have the time today to redo it. If you want, like, on your time to open this file again and redo it later just to learn, that's fine. But I was making you guys change back resolution in and out, teaching you that last week, and then at some point you moved on without going back to the original pixels. That's all. Okay, so that's fine. Your proportions are fine. It's just how many pixels you have means that if you were to truly try to print it, it would be a very low quality image.
got it.
You can fix that by opening it up again from scratch and the original and doing whatever we're going to do to the original. But for now, just do it to this one so that we can keep going forward. I was thinking it was about the size, and I'm like, wait, no, in your case, the size wasn't the issue, it was the proportion, and that's why I was lost in a minute. Okay, guys, I don't want to spend 100 more minutes or 2,000 more minutes on this. I was just trying to show you guys that proportionally, this image isn't tall enough or wide enough. So let's make it as wide as it needs to be for the bleed. And then we're going to have to add to the bottom in a different way. So let's make it 5.73, and then let's say, okay, 5.73. We're going to end up with a pretty high resolution photo, and let's say, okay. If this is where you are, you look at your ruler, your image is going to be 5.73. Let's hit save, Command or Control S. So we're going to save this change, okay? Or file save, whichever you prefer to do, file save. And then when we go into InDesign and we bring this image up, I had it hidden, whatever size or whatever shape you have for this image, you'll notice that the link isn't there anymore, and you should have, you need to have saved your Photoshop. You'll have a warning sign there. Does everyone have that warning sign? We made a change to our Photoshop. And so InDesign is like, whoop, 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 you changed something here. What you're seeing is the preview before the change. And so it's warning you that there was a change. It's not even visually easy for us to see what the change is, but we want to update it. So there's a couple different ways to update it. Right now, I don't have my links panel open, so I can just simply click on it. That's it. And it turned back into the link. And what happened is that this image just got updated with the right size. Okay. So now let's take the photo, whatever size you made it, put one corner of it right into that bleed, because we want this to be full bleed. Make sure you're on auto fit, right? Then grab the corner over here hold down shift if you want to make it proportional, and then drag it out to this bleed. Right? And so now you should have an image that in the corners fits perfectly well, but we're missing some stuff down here. If this is where you're at and life is, this is good, this is what you have, please give me a yes. If I've left you flailing somewhere behind, please give me a no. I'm kind of, you know, when you teach, sometimes you go, "Ooh, this worked well, and this didn't work well," to get so into the nitty-gritty of the technical stuff, but we're here, so yeah. All right, Alyssa, where did I lose you?
I updated the photo, but I can't find, I don't see my bleeds anymore. Can you remind me how to turn those back on?
Okay, W, yeah, W,
Oh, yep.
yep, fine, that's it's
Um,
an easy one because it
okay.
makes no sense. Like, what does the W mean? It doesn't have any meaning, like P for preview or something like that. So it's a hard one to remember. But if you don't remember it, just down here you have the preview tools, okay? And then you're going from preview back to normal. Normal is considered seeing everything, normal and preview.
Awesome. Thank
yeah.
you.
You're welcome. All right, I'm not seeing yeses everywhere. How are you doing, Monica and Shelly and Miguel? Are you here with me? Okay, you basically have the photo fitting the bleed. This will be safe. It won't be paper white, but you're
Diana-
missing a bottom chunk. Who said
Diana,
something?
what-
Julie.
Yeah, sorry. Mine is a little bit too big on the right-hand side. It's
Okay, if it kept going on to be too big on the right hand side, make sure to hold your shift key and have auto fit on, and then just kind of bring it back in and make it snap. Make sure that you snap it from edge to edge on the bleed, so you can just kind of go over here and move it around until you get the snap to be exact. If you need my help, you can share your screen. Would you like to?
yeah, I don't think that's working. It's the whole image is moving when I try to move it, so I must be doing something wrong with the
All
clip.
right, so share your screen. Okay, hold on. I need to move you to the screen so that I can see you better, because when you're in that screen, I've got too many things in the way. All right, so what are we doing here? Here's your baby photo. Okay. Go ahead and click on the border. You have it. Can you go ahead and do Command minus or Control minus in your case, so that we can see the edges. We need to see the end. We need to see more space around it. There we go. Okay, so your photo right now has white extending beyond, right? So grab that little corner, yeah, and then drag it in to snapped right there to the bleed. Perfect. And now on the left side, it's still a little bit off. So grab it from the left side and drag it, not move it, but grab the handles. You're resizing. Go to one of those little handles and make it snap just that little tad into the, yeah, it's just a tad, there. Okay, there's a feature, look at your, there's a feature in Photoshop, in InDesign and Illustrator, and all of them, called snap. And that snap means that when you're near enough to something that like a margin, then the size snaps to it. And in this case, you did that and boom, it snapped to the right place. But you still have something up on top where you're going above the size. So go up this time with your move tool, not the handle per se, because we don't want to resize now. No, you're with your move tool. You're fine. But instead of touching the handle, which is the little white pieces of the handle, go ahead and put your mouse on the white part of the photo, because you don't need to resize this. You just need to drag it down a bit. So click and drag it down so that your white touches the bleed. Yeah, now you're a bit lower. Like you see that bleed line there is, yeah, you need to go up higher. See the bleed line up on top? You're leaving it empty. You need to put the white and your photo all the way to that bleed line. So keep going up. There we go. Now you let go of your mouse. And there you go. Now your photo's in the right place as to, it's filling the bleed on the left, it's filling the bleed on the top, it's filling the bleed on the right. And if we look down at the bottom, we still don't have enough photo to fill all bleed on the bottom, which is kind of where we're at. Got
Okay.
it?
Yep,
Click
thank
away for
you.
a minute click away for a minute so you stop seeing all the boxes, which is, it makes it a bit easier. Put your mouse like on some engraved part in InDesign, click there, yeah. And so now you have an image that is showing you that you still have some space down at the bottom that has no image. If you fill in the bleed, the proportions of this photo mean that you need some more photo. And that's what we're gonna do. I've just stopped your share. That's what we're gonna do in Photoshop. And we're gonna see if we can get Photoshop to give us a good imitation of that reflection so that it doesn't look too fake. Okay. All right, back to Photoshop, everyone. We're gonna see if Photoshop can add. It was at a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch. What did we need? I'm lost. Let me see. If it can add to 3/4 of an inch, so not 3/4 of an inch, a 3/8 of an inch here to the bottom. Let's just add 1/2 an inch. So we're gonna have too much, but it's safer to add 1/2 an inch. Okay, so we need to make this photograph be 1/2 an inch bigger. Down here, 1/2 an inch at the bottom, not everywhere. And hopefully we can use some intelligent tools to see if Photoshop can fill something in here that doesn't look too fake. So let's go up to image canvas size. Right under image size, we have canvas size. Canvas size is the size of, it's like the piece of paper that we're using. It's the size of our canvases. This was a painting. You need to add some more canvas to your spreadsheet, right? So we're going to go to image canvas size. And in this tool, we can make this is not about the baby. The baby and the balloon are going to stay the same. The background is going to stay the same. We're going to add more space, you know, in the bottom here so that we can stretch our image out. So we don't want it to be proportional. We only want to add stuff at the bottom. So the only thing that needs to change is our height. Okay. But we need to tell it where to add that space. And we want to tell it to add it to the bottom. So we're going to click over here. We just need the bottom to get bigger. And if you know how to calculate the numbers here, that's good. But if you don't know how to calculate that number, then you can just go to relative and just say that you want 1/2 an inch extra and let Photoshop calculate it. If you're good at going, okay, what's 1/2 an inch more than 4.202? Go for it. I'm not that good at math, as you might have noticed with my timing for breaks. So I'm going to go to relative and I'm going to say just add 1/2 an inch to the bottom of this photo. So I'm going to say 0.5. So I'm going to add 1/2 an inch to the bottom of this photo. Okay. And then say, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. It added it to the wrong side. Yeah, of course I use that box. Let's undo that. See how it added 1/2 an inch up there? Undo. I haven't done this. It's the other way around. That needs to stay and this needs to be filled in with your space. Yeah, I totally got it. That is good. And it's saying, add it. Those arrows are pointing, add it to the bottom. Okay, so 0.5. Okay, there we go. So now we've added 1/2 an inch to our photo. And now we can really tell that this background wasn't white, that it all along it's had a color. I wish that for this, we could have added, you know, a color for a second here to the entire background. Let me just show you what I'm talking about, where somewhere or another, we could have seen that what's happening is that say that I know that this isn't right for the baby, but if this is my background, it's a color and this is fake and I need to extend this piece, right? we tend to think because it's like that it's white, but it's not. It's really a color of gray, just very similar to white, but it is a color of gray. But if this were mountains and skies, this is what we would have just done, just added 1/2 inch of white to our mountains and skies. Does that make sense? Now, what we want to do with this is see if Photoshop can recreate what is missing. I'm not sure. I haven't tried it with this image if it's going to work, but if this worked for you, give me a yes. And if not, give me, hold on. I know that you have your hand up, Moni. I'm going to read your feedback so that I can hear your feedback about this. If this worked for you, give me a yes. If you have questions, give me a no. And then yes, Moni, what's your question?
Okay, so on yours, it's showing white on the bottom and mine has it as black. Does that make a difference or is it just how I'm viewing it?
Yeah, no, yeah, let me undo. Yeah, hold on. I should have warned you about that. Hold on. When you go to canvas size, over here, you tell it what to make that extension. Mine was white. You probably had black over there. Ideally, you know, you would change it to foreground, background, or something like that. And yours, you must have had black. I might have white. We want to cover that with image anyway, so it doesn't matter. But that's where I should have had you check in. Okay, so that's what happened. But that's okay. You know, black or white, we're going to cover it with image because we don't want either black nor white. All right, so for now, it doesn't really matter what it is. All right, so let's go and select this area. So what we're going to do is with our selection tool, right, our regular marquee tool. So from the top to bottom, this rectangle, we're going to go ahead and select this area. And, you know, we can use a selection tool for that too, and reality and stuff like that, but it's okay. This is a good one to select with a rectangle. We're going to go over here and click and drag all the way. Now, don't try to fit this exactly. Go and start from like the gray area so that for sure you get the corners, and then drag out and go all the way to the gray area over here. Now, if you're not sure if you're grabbing exactly the right amount, like if you're not sure if you overlapped, you can zoom in a little bit, you know, to make sure that you're grabbing that overlap or something like that. But it's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to do some filling in. Now, another thing I would like maybe sometimes what you can do, let me just do this. Let's just do this even better. Let's make this on a new layer so it's not destructive. Let me have us, if you had selected something, go ahead and say deselect. And we don't want this change to be destructive because it might not work well. So we're going to make it on a new layer. So go over here and select your background and click on the plus side. Now, I might be having you do stuff that for some of you guys barely know Photoshop. So if I'm losing you about how to create this new layer or whatever, please tell me. But basically go over to your layers where we had the color fill and the background. Select your background. And down here, next to the little trash can, there's a little plus sign. Click the plus sign. We've made a new layer. And in this layer, we're going to try to create an extension to this background. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm hoping it will work. I'm going to overlap a little bit, okay, this time. See how I'm doing a little bit of an overlap, even more of an overlap, it doesn't matter in the sense that now this is going to be hidden, so it won't matter too much. But anyway, not too much of an overlap, a little bit of an overlap. Once you have that area selected, let me see if we can do one of these. There's a new tool in 2024. I'm showing you 2023 because of BDI people, but there's a new tool here that would be absolutely perfect to use. So those of you who have 2024, that we have in a minute. Those of you who have 2024, you should see something there that is saying content aware. Let me see what it's called. Content. What's it called? Hold on, trying, I'm opening my other computer. But I've got something else in the way. It's called. Remove tool. Oh, so it's not the one I want anyway. Okay, so it's not in the toolbars. Okay, it's fine. So we're gonna go get it from up here. So we'll head up to edit. And we go to content aware fill. So what content aware fill is gonna do, it's gonna look at the edges that we have. So it's gonna look at this little bit here that we selected. And it's gonna try to fill this with something that would make sense, that would look seamless. It's easier to do detail like grass than it will be to do this perfect seamless background, but let's give it a try. I'm gonna do content aware fill. And we're gonna wait and see. And it's showing me here the part that it's using to match. And then over here on the right side, it's giving me the solution. I'm gonna zoom into the part that matters. And if it fills it with this side kind of works. It's giving me a little reflection, but over here, it didn't do a very good job. You know what I mean? Seems like, so this is it's proposing. This is what it's gonna give you. This on the right side, forget that. That is just telling you where it's copying from, and it's copying from here. So that's good. It's using a gradient. And so if you look at this over here, it's working in that the white doesn't look white anymore. It's doing a good job of matching. But in the reflection area, it's looking good, but not perfect. That said, that's not bad. And I can fix that by hand a little bit. That would take you a bit more into retouching, but that's not bad. I'm gonna go ahead and say that, yeah, this is a good filling in. Instead of that white that we had before, this fills in pretty good. So I'm gonna say, okay. And so now in this, create a
Diana?
new layer. Yeah.
That is not what my image looks like on the right at all. Mine looks like
Okay.
the boy's feet a million times.
All right, so you probably overlapped the feet a little bit. When in your selection. Okay, so here, I'm gonna do this again. Let me undo mine. And I noticed, by the way, that this one layer that we made, it's okay, the content aware did put it in another layer, so we didn't really need to have made this layer. So if you wanna undo, like if you don't like what you did, just go ahead and do undo. If you like it, keep it. But if you don't like it, then go ahead and undo, and we can get rid of this little layer that we had made, because this took care of that. When you made this when you made this selection here, you probably overlapped and grabbed a little bit of toe, or even if you didn't grab toes, right? Let me just show you guys what would happen if you do toes. You're basically telling it copy from here, right? So I grabbed a little bit of toe and said, go ahead and fill. And so it's processing, and here it is. Now
Yeah.
I grabbed so much that it's giving me like legs and feet and all that kind of thing, which is like scary. So what it's doing, it's giving you over here an idea of what it's using. That green is telling you what it's using. So what you can do is go over here and tell it, no, and click and drag and say, do not use baby, do not use baby, right? And so it reprocesses it, and it goes, oh, so you want only this. But by doing that, we've told it to not include the shade, right? The reflection. So basically at this point, what you do is cancel and reselect this reflection, but don't go that near the toes. And so maybe about yay much, maybe even a little bit less would be safer. You know what I mean? You want it to read a bit of the reflection you want, but not to include the baby. And then go back to edit image, edit content aware fill. And let's see if it gives me I kind of like my first reflection better, but there you go. Now it gave me that. Let me zoom in to see if I like my first one better, but it's okay. It doesn't seem, it's okay. I can fix it a little bit in here. And if I want to tell it not to for sure include, I go over here and I click around the parts that I want to make sure it doesn't include, then that might help a little bit. So it redoes it. Let me see what that looks much better. By excluding this and this, it did a much better job it keeps working. When this is working, it keeps thinking. It did a much better job of giving me a transition to that reflection. I kind of like that. So yeah, you kind of fix here what you want it to include or not. If you don't want it to include baby at all, you can do that too. And you basically tell it, don't include that, shouldn't be something you should think about. And then it kind of rethinks over here and it goes, oh, okay. And I like this. It's so smooth that if my bleed instead of cutting there would have cut there, it's okay. It's not like I have more, it doesn't invent a reflection of the baby, but it transitions it to a soft gray that no one's going to notice if it's just in the bleed. Does that make sense? So play around with it a little bit until you get what you think is a pretty smooth transition. And when you're happy with that, just say, okay. And if now I deselect and I turn this on and off, this is what the computer invented. And I'd say it's a pretty good job. If I didn't know what had happened, I'd look at this and I wouldn't even really think about that reflection. And that's okay, because we only are going to need this little bit to fill my space. No one's going to be looking at that. They're going to focus on this, on the baby and pretty birthday party and that whole thing. Does that make sense what we just did?
Yes,
You
I
just
have
use
an extra
Photoshop.
layer. How do you get rid of a layer?
Yeah, I had made you make an extra layer that we didn't need. Just grab it and select this little, just select it, not grab it, and select this little trash can, and it'll say, do you want to delete it? Say, yeah, that one was not necessary. The tool knew to make a new layer for you. Okay, so now we're gonna save, Command or Control S. And when we go back to InDesign, InDesign is telling me, whoops, you changed something, see my link. So I'm going to click on that link and it went ahead and changed. Since I'm in auto fit mode, which I wish I hadn't been in auto fit mode, now I'm going to have to resize the frame. I don't like this auto fit more. I think I've told you a few times, but I'm going to go ahead and say fit frame to content, which is this one, so that my frame is back in the right place. And then I'm going to grab that, touch that little corner. I'm going to hold my shift key and my command key, but if you can't do the shortcuts, then you'll hold your auto fit. Hold on my shift key, and I'm going to just drag until I touch the other end of the bleed. And now I have all this extra stuff that was created by Photoshop, which is extra. I don't mind if there's extra, but what I mind is that I have extra on the bleed. And if I turn this on or off, it looks great. It doesn't interrupt me. And if perchance the trim doesn't end there and ends up there, I'm still good. If it ends up there, I'm still good. Does that make sense what we did? We invented something in Photoshop to fill in that little space that was missing. For those of you who wanted a design with the full frame baby, you might have not wanted a design with a full frame baby. You might have been more than happy to have this, to have the design be smaller. But since we're learning here, I wanted everyone to go through this, and you can still decide to make this smaller or bigger and not actually want it to be there, because right now where'd I put my baby or whatever, but that's fine. This is just showing you guys how to go into Photoshop, modify things, and most importantly, how to bring in that modification. So just to give you another example, of how linked these files are between InDesign and Photoshop. If I go into Photoshop and now decide to change the color of my balloon, right? I go over here and I decide that I wanted it to be pink, and I say, okay, right? If I don't save my change, I didn't save yet. InDesign gives me no indication that something's wrong. It's like, well, that's fine. It's still green. The moment in Photoshop I save my change, that's the key. I need to save my change, Command or Control S. Now when I go into InDesign, InDesign tells me something's wrong. It's still green, but something's wrong. Another place where it would show it to you is over here in the links. It's like, whoops, whoops, whoops. So I'm going to double click on that thing, and it updated, and it brought me the pink version that I just made. Okay. So you're basically working with both programs at the same time. This is a live alteration. I'm going to go back to Photoshop, and I'm going to undo the pink balloon. Command or Control Z, it's back to being gray, but I need to save again. And once I save, I go back into InDesign and there it is again. It's been modified. I click on that and boom, it's green again. Okay, you saw how they're both open and they're both live. This is a live connection. And in fact, one thing I didn't tell you is that you can actually even go. If I select this layer, I don't even have to go and open InDesign. I can over here go and click on this little guy and say go to link, right? And so it says go to link. I go to link. It brings me to Photoshop. Okay, Photoshop is where I'm making the changes. No, this one, no, that's wrong. This takes me to where in the, sorry, that was the wrong link. That takes me to where in my image I have the link, and this one, the pencil, it takes me to edit this photo in the original program. I apologize, it's this one. And when you click on that one, it brought me into Photoshop to edit this photo and make it green or blue or pink. For those of you who were, if you haven't yet opened your Illustrator, open your Illustrator, because now we're going to make this Illustrator image change color. So here I have my black baby, and I really don't want this to be black, but I designed it in black. But if I try to go change the color in here, it doesn't let me change the color. Let's go try. Here I select your baby now, right there. And if perchance that you brought it in again and it happens to be underneath, remember, go to your layers, bring it up on top. And then if you've used Illustrator at all, you've noticed that we filled with the appearance box, we fill a color, and here's the same box. And I go to my fill and I want to change the color, and I'll click on, say, make it green again. Let's say make it, it's a horrible green, but let's say I hit make it green. Nope, it's not going to work, because all it does is it fills that frame, that placeholder frame with color, and that's not what I wanted. That's the opposite of what I wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and say undo to that. And I'm going to go, well, was it the stroke command? And I go green. Nope, that's the stroke to the frame. So this is basically talking about the frame. I could change this to text, but it's grayed out because there's no InDesign text. So basically I'm left with this, I can't change the color. Why? As much as I couldn't change the color of the balloon in Photoshop, this is an Illustrator file. So if I want to change this color, I need to go to Illustrator to change the color. So I could go open Illustrator on my own, or I could go over here, select baby and say, okay, take me, edit original, take me to this file in Illustrator. So I'll click on edit original, and it went to Illustrator and it pulled up the file. I already had it open, but if you didn't have it open, it'll open Illustrator. And here's my baby in Illustrator. And here I select it with my selection tool. Okay, if you haven't yet selected, and over here I can go to the fill, and make it
Diana,
whatever color I want it to be. Yep, I'm listening.
could you show us how you got from that baby file to Illustrator?
Yeah.
Again,
So,
mine.
yeah. Well, you can just go open it and do it. But if you're in InDesign and you want it to take you there, so here, I'm going to close this file. Like I don't have it open yet. I'm going to say, don't save. I say I don't have it open yet. I'm in InDesign. And I'm like, you know what? I want to change the size, the color, the shape, the angle. So I go over here and select my link. And down here, there's a little pencil mark that says edit original. I believe I could probably right click and say edit original too. Yeah, I could do with it a right click, edit original. Okay, I can even say edit with and tell it what to edit it with. But since we know I made it in Illustrator, if you say edit original, it opens Illustrator. So I'll say edit original.
Mine doesn't show that.
Okay, so let me see your screen to see. You have
I'm the only one that asked questions. I'm so sorry, but
no, just so
wanna
you
get
know,
this.
don't worry, don't worry. We have, you're in InDesign, you're in the layers, not in the links. So go to the links panel. That's why. So
Oh,
open it up again. You're looking at layers,
okay.
links. Yeah. So click on the link baby AI. And now you'll see that they're right next to each other. They're very similar. So yeah, this is handling them as a link. And there's a little pencil, a little bit lower. Yeah. And if you click on that, it knows where it is because that's the whole point of linking, and it goes to Illustrator and opens the file you need, which is this one.
Okay,
So
Got it.
perfect.
okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, layers and links are in the same panel because usually when you're using one, when you need one, you need the other. So, so they are, and they look almost the same because you saw baby and reveal, you saw the same names. So let me go back to InDesign. And so the layers links panel here is showing you baby and boy gender. The layers panel is showing baby and boy gender. So at first glance, when this is new to you, it looks very similar. But links is talking about that file that we have in Illustrator.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
All right. So now in Illustrator, we select that baby and we change it to whatever color we want. Say that we wanted it to be, I don't know, green. And I'm not going to go into making new colors here. Go with one of the basics that are here. Maybe you want it blue, although that might give it away. Maybe yellow is neutral. I don't know. And if you want to, you can go to the warping and change the order. I mean, you can modify, do whatever you want. Here I'm completely changing things, and I'm going to say okay to that. But you'd have to say save. Okay, again, Command or Control S, or File, Save in Illustrator. Then you go back to InDesign. And when you're in InDesign, did I save? Hold on. Did I save my Illustrator file? Yep, I did. Go back to InDesign, and for some reason, this one here is not telling me it's been modified. It just changed automatically. I guess Illustrator didn't need that extra step. Here I'm seeing my yellow baby. Let's see if that holds again. If I don't save it and I change this to pink, now I'm curious. If I change it to pink and I don't save it, let me go to InDesign. No, it's still green. It still needs the save. So I'm going to save it as pink. And now I'm going to go to InDesign. And no, okay, that's what I was going to say. This time, it's telling me something's wrong. I saved and it just gives me this little preview. So it shows me the little thing. And when I click on it, it goes, oh, you made it blue. You made it pink. Okay. So yeah, you have to save for it to change to happen. I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to go back to the warp and undo the warp and leave it in whatever. This one, it's not particularly a good one, but I'm going to keep it there and go back to InDesign. And there again, I made a change and it's like, oh, something's wrong. Click on that and it gives me the new change. Okay. Now I've gone beyond our timing for the break. So I just wanted to finish this whole part about how the linked files are really important. I'm going to have us take a break. You could do whatever you want with this. As I said, it's happy to have you guys play around with it in a way. But because it's Illustrator, now I can go big and small or do anything I wanted, and it's never going to lose its quality. That said, by the way, you can distort it back and forth with the frame, and it's like, nah, I don't care. That's that image. If you want it distorted or change in shape, you would have to go do that in Illustrator. Okay. So now that I brought this image in, I can make it, I clicked here, click on the auto fit. Is that going to work to make it bigger or smaller? Yeah, if you don't want the shortcuts, then auto fit would help you make it bigger or smaller. Yeah. And then you would bring it in a bit. Yeah, I don't, the auto fit does weird things. Now it's not letting me. Anyway, the auto fit for the Illustrator file does some weird stuff because now my question mark wasn't entirely in there. All right, so that's what we're gonna do with this guy. And let's go ahead and save everything. I don't like this baby, doesn't work for me, but whatever. The way it goes over the balloon, I don't like it, but design wise, but anyway, it's just a sample. I liked it better when my photo wasn't filling the screen because the balloon was over here, but since we did that to figure it out, I would probably have to go and change my baby. I want us to invent some timing over here in the dashboard. You have an example that Momi already put in there where she wrote Smith family, da 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 da. She put all like this information in there. That's good. To do that, we need to do it in InDesign. Let's just do that and then take our break. So how do we do that in InDesign? Well, we go to the type tool. And in the type tool, again, there's so many different ways of using the type tool, but basically in the type tool, you don't just click and start writing as you would in another application. In InDesign, every single element is held by a box. So you need to make a box, a text box, an area box. So I'm going to click and drag and say that I want the text over here. I make a box. Okay, so show you again. Choose my type tool. I click and drag out a box where I think type is going to fit, make it about the size I want it to be. And then I have a cursor and I start writing. So I don't know. What was your wording? Come to the party, gender reveal party. I don't know, gender reveal party. And when I first start writing, it's going to come out in whatever font and size I have as my default font and size. If I want to change it, you're welcome to just select that and choose a funkier font, a better font, something that's prettier, you know, whatever. You choose that. I'm not going to get too deep into that right now. We'll play with fonts a little bit later. So say that this is the font that I choose. Ideally, I'd choose something that's similar-ish to that baby over there. But anyway, I'm going to just choose something. Yay, gender reveal party. I'm just not taking much time to do anything here. Let's do a careful with these really cute, if you have any of these really cute script fonts, sometimes they are really hard to read. This one is actually pretty readable, but they're cute, but they're very hard to read a lot of times. So be careful with that. So let me go back in and choose a regular font. I was trying to use a relatively regular-ish one. And I had one that had disappeared. I'm gonna go with that one. We're gonna go and talk about fonts later. And then, yeah, I don't know, 123 State Street, Santa Barbara, California. Maybe you want time and day, whatever, December 17th, and no one's going to show up. Is this near Christmas? Whatever, 2 to 4 p.m. I'm just, yeah, whatever. Cool. So I gave it some information. I'm not going to worry too much about the formatting. You guys can play with that. I want to give us a break. Command and Control S to keep that in there. And let's go. Time 10:53. Here we go. Okay, so break until Monica, what's 15 minutes? 10:53, 7 minutes delay. I always count on you because you just have it there, but if it, oh, 2 more minutes.
It's at 08 or maybe 09.
All right, so be back at 11:09 at this point, since I took so long to figure it out. There you go. If you have any questions, hang on to them until we come back. I'll see you in a little bit. Hey Siri. Set timer for 3 minutes.
3 minutes, counting down.
All right. Oh, I guess I had left my video on. Okay, I'm back. If you are back, let me know. Does seem like it cut short or break a little bit, but if you guys hear me and you're back, give me signs of life. I'll wait a little bit. Sorry about that big yawn. I like that piece of art, Sherry, that you have in the place of your photo. Is that something you did, or? And by the way, Mark, thank you for trying so hard and following through and working with Katie. If you guys need support, the tech support people in general are great, but I have personally worked with Katie. She was my aide in my credit class for quite a few years before the pandemic started. And she's really, really good and patient and supportive. That said, she doesn't know Photoshop itself or InDesign or the Adobe products, but she knows how computers work and the base of how to get everything running and all of that. And that's what Mark's been working with, trying to get his system set up to work. And so BDI wasn't working well for him. And so he had to set up his whole computer application. And so, you know, Katie's been you've been meeting with Katie and she's been great. So anyone needs help, tech support in Santa Barbara, they're really good in the City College. They really do find the right one. Someone might be new to it and not know too much, but there's another one that'll know better. All right, I'm seeing a couple of yeses. I'm seeing 2 faces. Some other people are walking in. All right, so I'm gonna keep going. Well, everyone else joins us. Also time for you guys to maybe play around with that text and do some more to it. I played a teeny bit more around with my text. Illustrator. And oh, and by the way, let me go first over here. Don't forget to go and do some screenshots in InDesign Padlet. So I posted it and I'll post it again. Not that what we're posting today is that different from what we posted the other day yet. But what we're doing is kind of invisible. It's the links. So maybe go ahead and work on like doing some screenshots of the whole link part of it. And the canvas size, the image size, you know, the kind of things that we've been working on, the fill, the context to where Photoshop does its best to imitate what's there. So those are really things I've been doing, but with, you know, in InDesign, the image still looking quite similar. We're just making it more appropriate. Okay. So I went ahead into InDesign and changed the color and the shape of my baby, which wasn't working with this design at all. Sorry, to Illustrator. But yeah, it's interesting because you think it's text, but really it's an illustration. So you wouldn't imagine that you could put in a bell pepper here and change the color of it in InDesign yet, since it was text. And that's why I just made this there. It kind of looks like you would be able to change it in InDesign, but no, it's an Illustrator file as much as the baby was an Illustrator file, and we need to go into Illustrator to change its color. Now, I went ahead and made, I don't really like this format, and I might like it or not, but say that I don't like it and I want to change versions, but I don't want to lose what I did, because just in case, maybe this is the one that I like best, right? So what can I do? Can I have 2 versions of this? And yeah, what I did is to show you that, I just brought in the photo of the baby again, right? And I gave it a different position and shape, and another example, I blew it up really big and I put the balloon only without the baby. But so I can just try in a 3rd version, right? And maybe what if I were to put the baby somewhere else? So you can just kind of turn on layers and have different options. This is one thing where the layers might be an idea. You could just copy this layer and then have one version which is with the baby and the balloon, and another version which is the baby and the text in a different place, or with green, you know. So if you're not, if moving it around, then you don't want to lose what you first did. This is one of the few options where I would say, well, maybe another layer is useful. So I'm going to go over here to your layers, you guys, collapse your layers. And then you can right click and you can say duplicate layer 1. So when you do that, you have duplicated every element, right? So now I have everything twice. I have it here and here. So I'm going to have one on at a time. And in this one, I'm going to have this version, right? And so maybe I'm going to double click on layer 1 and call this one boy and balloon with red text version for example, right? Oh, not boy and balloon. And I'm going to redo this with you guys so you can see what I'm doing. And then on the second one, I have the, oh, I didn't mean to get rid of the layer. This one I will call a big balloon. Try to type from here on this one. Balloon. Right, so then I go, do I like this one better or do I like this one better? So basically I have all of the stuff in this one and all of the stuff in this one. It's identical. Actually, I can just go ahead and take this away. So you bring it in again. This is an example of why you would have 2 layers. Now this might get a bit more complicated, but I know some of you guys have taken this class before and want a few more edges to this. But if this is the first time you're using InDesign and you're getting a little bit like this is too many, don't worry. This is just me showing you how you can just duplicate what you've been doing. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and duplicate what you've been doing for the entire layer. This used to be called layer 1, layer 2. I just did a right click, duplicate layer 1. It used to be called layer 1. Then I gave each layer a different name, but inside each layer you have the same 3 elements, right? So if I see this is 1, white, blue, red, and 2, baby balloon. And then I can go, well, on this one, how about I make the text, I don't know, dark blue or purple or something else. And so you can keep playing around until you decide which one you want, right? So this is just an example. That said, if you go to links now, you'll see that I have 2 versions of baby and see 2 versions of boy. So if I open this up, it shows me boy and boy, because now I have 2 versions of them and 2 versions of babies. I know that for a lot of you guys, this is too much, in which case, fine. I just wanted to show stuff for people who have plan B. So since I don't really need everyone to do this, I'm going to go ahead and undo this again, right? I'm going to go ahead and undo this, and I'm going to get rid of that extra layer that I just made. I'm going to get rid of that and go back to just the one, which I just called big balloon, but could as well have gone back to being called layer 1. You know what I mean? So I just wanted you guys to see some possibilities. So this little bit, I was still waiting for some people to come back from break, is just showing you some more variations for those of you who got that. But if you didn't, I'm back to what we had, which is 1 layer, 1 balloon, 1 baby, and 1 text saying gender reveal party. So this is kind of where we left at break. Everything I just did was to show you ways of having different layouts while you're testing it out, or bringing it in this way or bring it in that way. Because, you know, when you're still trying to decide what you want, you might not know what's the better version. Okay. Other than having me make you do this correctly, because to do that, do it on your own time watching the recording. I understand what I said about creating a whole nother layer that gives you all of your tools twice, and that makes sense. And if you want to try it, you can make 5 of them and have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, show your moms or whatever. What do they think? Make it balloon green, yellow, purple, bring a different photo in. And then when you decide that's the one, then you basically kind of move forward from there. Okay, so as long as that concept is understood, I'll move forward. All good? Give me some yeses or some nos. Okay. All right, so I basically went back all the way to just having 1. If you kept 2, the whole thing is if you kept 2 because you followed through with me, just turn 1 off, ignore it for now, and we're just going to keep working as if there's just 1. Turn 1 off, what I mean by that is turn the eyeball off of the extra one. Turn the eyeball only on 1 layer, which then means that all the eyeballs inside that layer are on. And then we keep going. I'm hearing like a little feedback. Can somebody say something to make sure that I'm hearing you guys? Anyone?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, good. I can hear you.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
I hear that feedback too.
You hear that? Yeah, it's like a little kind of sound. It's not very intrusive, but there's a little ding to it.
Yeah, I think maybe not everyone is unmuted.
Okay, it's okay. It's not like one of those that kills my ears or anything. I just want to make sure that it wasn't me that I couldn't hear you guys. All right,
You're okay.
good. Thank you, Mark. All right, so whatever design you have left, did everyone add some text mainly? You all good with text? You put in whatever you wrote. Maybe you have something cute to say. This isn't very cute. This is just information. Maybe it's a little poem, whatever. You can get as fun as you want. I'd like to see versions and variations. And by the way, I do want to see screenshots, not only of what you're designing with and without the, if you shoot this, please also give me a version with all your, hit the W and all these, because I want to make sure that everything that you turn in or you show me is actually working well within the boundaries, and that your bleed is taken care of. And if you go to the links, oh, look at that. I just threw this one out just for fun that I made this balloon big, but I'm so glad I checked, because look what I did to my link. My effective PPI went down to 163. Whoa, I just did that for fun. Is that going to work?
No,
No, I made it so big that I have blown this balloon out of its resolution, which of course I did that to make something very different. And yeah, it's way too big. So I would have to go and grab this, which is now humongous. And in this case, bring it, well, hold on, I'm going to open up the link to check the numbers, and I'm going to bring it down again proportionally until it says 300. 236. Remember, we can push it. We can go to 250. If I want it big, I'll go to about 250, because that's still gonna work. For 245, that's the minimum resolution I should have if I really need it. So that's as big as my balloon can be for it to work. So now I'm gonna go, it's not bad, it still works. It's a big balloon if that was my idea. And I check the link and I go, phew. So don't forget that you need to have enough effective PPI to make sure that whatever you brought in, if you enlarge or things, that it still works. And a lot of people, that's the part where there's a lot of problems. A lot of people don't notice that. And you just think you can make things bigger or smaller to your heart's content, because your computer still shows it to you okay. But if you don't check that number, when you go print, you would have this very jaggedy, blurry, whatever, and you go, what was wrong? It's just that you had a photo that was yay big, and you're only using this little portion of it, so you don't have enough resolution for this little portion of it. Does that make sense? Even if the whole photo has too much, in which case you have to go and take a photo just of a balloon and use that, right? Versus using a piece of this one. Okay. So the most important thing we're going to do now is, if we've if you've gone back and forth and changed everything back and forth, now let's say that we're done. And yes, we could do a ton more to this invitation, but let's say that we're done. And this is what we're going to be using as our gender reveal thing. And it's going to be just one-sided. On the other side, we're just going to hand, we're going to put in a stamp and hand print. When it's actually a postcard, usually the second page does get, the lines, which say on the left side, put your writing, on the right side, put your address, those little lines that postcards have behind them. But if you were to print this with one of these like template kind of places like Vistaprint or whatever, they'll have their own background template for that. But if you want to make your own, you could have this add a second page and then make your own lines, maybe in the same colors that you're doing it, put some other little quote or insert a photo of the parents with the big belly or something. You could do whatever you want to the second side. But usually printing a two-sided thing is more expensive than a one-sided thing. In this case, bleed is more expensive than not bleed. So take into account all those things before you do it. I want to say one thing about the bleed. Expensive on making something with bleed is more expensive if you're thinking of doing this. When I say professionally, I mean, say that this is a marketing piece for a big company that's making 10,000 copies. You would not go to Vistaprint, right? You would go to a big printer who's doing all this professional printing and just have this web press that shoots out 10,000 copies in a second. All these other printers that are online, Vistaprint, I just came up with those three names when I was there. They're great at something that before was prohibitive. You could not just do 100 cards, right? You had to go with these huge runs with these big machines where they make, 20,000 versions of something, because just turning the machine on and off, boom, it's shot out, 20,000 versions of it. And you just couldn't, they would charge you for 100 cards, the same cost as if they were you get 10,000 of them. The thing about these, I'd say by now, it's been a while, so 8 years, 9 years, maybe even 10 years that all these other companies are online, they're doing digital printing, short, small batch digital printing. And whereas now you can say, I just want 100 cards or 50 cards, and you get charged for, 50 cards. That's really new in the world of printing. And it's awesome because now you can have a little marketing piece for one event, a flash sale, a pop-up sale, a holiday, whatever, print out these many, distribute them, and you're done. I only want 100 versions of this business card with this image and another 100 with this image and 100 with this image. You have 300 business cards with 3 different images. That's something we can do now. But you wouldn't go to those people to get a, 20,000 images of the brochure that I'm going to be creating to market around the country, my entire business. It's just not cost productive. So you would just decide what kind of printer you're going to go to, many times depending on how big the run is that you're going to make it. Now, if you're then going to take this to social media, maybe you have a little personal group, or maybe you're going to email this to your friends instead of sending it in the mail or something like that, then you can, out of this, create a JPEG and then save it as a JPEG, and then use that JPEG to pump it out in a digital invitation. Maybe you email the invitation to your friends or stuff like that. So now what we're going to talk about is the output. Let's say we love it. We're done. We think this is the best, design. You guys can keep in working on it. And I would love to see versions of gender reveal cards that you would think are actually really pretty. And the question now that we're going to complete the day with is output. Okay, so these things that I've been talking about, what kind of printer do you go to? What kind of piece you're making? Is it going to be online? Is it going to be printed? Is it going to be both? Is it going to be on social media? Is it just going to be emailed? What do we do to complete this document? What needs to happen? Okay, so please give me a yes if you've got this ready. You have a background, an illustration, and some text. If you've got those 3 pieces in there, we're ready to go with completing this and choosing what output we're going to do. And we're going to do all 3 kinds of output, all the versions that I talked about, as if all of this mattered to me. If you want to, you could even do an interactive PDF where you send it, you click on this address, and when they click on the address, it takes them to the Maps application or stuff like that, right? We're not going to go that far, but yeah, from here you can do a whole bunch of different things. We're going to say that this is going to be something that we're going to print in Vistaprint. We're going to get 100 postcards. We're also know that some of the people that we want to invite, we don't know their address. We don't want to email. We really want to invite more people. So, maybe we're going to email it to some people. So we're going to turn it into a JPEG to email. I hesitate to say social media because you don't want to invite the world to social media, but say that you have a contained group in social media, you want to put it, you can put that same JPEG up. If you're going to do social media, depending if you're going to print it on publish it on Facebook or on Instagram or TikTok or whatever you're going to do, you need to go and investigate what's the right format to print something there. Because if you put up this shape in social media, if you want it all to be seen, it might be that at first it cuts out the address or it cuts out the balloon, because each one has its own format. So if you're going to be doing this just for once, who cares? But if you're doing that professionally, you're publicizing your business with this, and you're going to be doing posts in social media as part of pop-up sale for Christmas, 20% off, whatever, then you're going to want to make sure that you format the shape to the right shapes for social media shapes. And let me really quickly, I'm teaching the Create Compelling Content class right now. I taught the first one yesterday morning. But let me really quickly go, because in the handouts for that class, I haven't done that. You guys don't have that, but let me, the Create Compelling Content handouts, one thing I have here is a social media, latest social media. You can just Google something like this, right? And this is a file. If this is just a link to one article, but there's so many. It's the sizes that you would be, if you're doing this for business, you want to do something the best, then each one is different. So for example, if you do Facebook posts, there's a pixel size for what would be your business post, your post, whatever, but this would be the right size, for example, for your post. You would have to have it be, you know, this would be the width in pixels. It would have to be either 720 or 960 or 2048 so that it's actually proportional to what's best for them versus, let me head down to what, like Instagram, what's coming next, Facebook story, Facebook this, Facebook ads, there's so many different types. But if I'm just saying just a post here, Instagram. So just the photos for Instagram should have for landscape 180 by 566. If it's square, 180 by 130. So you can find this information. As much as I told you how to find the specs for a postcard to get it printed, or business cards to get it printed, you can also find the specs for posting things on any of these different sites, and it'll be different for each one of them. Believe it or not, you'd think, oh, it's all social media. Each one has their own requests for what's the best size to make your image so that it posts at its best when you do upload it, which, you know, for us sharing, you know, the sprinkled donut that we're eating, who cares? But if you're sharing something that's going to be, you know, professional and something that really you want to make sure that you format it the right way. So say that this is going to be in Instagram and you're going to post it as a square image, you're going to have to do some redesign to that because we designed it as a landscape thing. So it's not going to work well. But Instagram before used to only take squares. Now it takes landscape. So you're going to go over here and you go, okay, it's going to have to be 1080 by 555 if this is going to be something that I want to just post just to see the entire thing, the balloons and the address and everything without cutting anything out. Because if you put it in a different shape, it's just going to cut something out. Does that make sense? So anyway, just wanted to throw that out. As far as specs, it's not just for printing. These are the specs for how to handle feed photos for any of these different places. And if you don't find the information you want because you're going with a professional printer and you need to know information for them, then look them up online, get them on the phone and ask them, okay, my boss uses you guys and wants me to print this with you guys. Can you tell me what the specs are for you, what your printer settings are for me to get the best possible product on your printing machines, right? And each printer has their request for how you're supposed to save the file and stuff like that. So we're going to be doing a little bit of that right now. So back into InDesign. We made a personal thing, a gender reveal party. We could have made a brochure for a business. We're ready to print it. If we print with one of these short run printers that I just mentioned, like Vistaprint. I keep saying Vistaprint because it's the one I took the specs from right now. I actually, when I've printed stuff, I've gone with other people because I like their pricing better, but it's an example and they're kind of the best known one. So when you say it, most people might know. If you print with one of those short-term printers, which use digital printers, and all they need is a PDF. They don't want anything else. And they don't even want crop marks or anything on it. They just want the basic PDF. So they do want to include the bleed though. They want you to include the bleed. And I don't think I have the search for that, but remember that their post included the bleed. These numbers include the bleed, the specs included the bleed. So let's say first thing we're going to do, we're done with this project. We're ready to post it. We're ready to get the file ready to send to Vistaprint. Okay, so right now we're doing it's like a digital printing kind of company for a short run printing. Okay, so for them, all they want is a PDF. Now, what do they want a PDF instead of the InDesign file? Because you would have to send them the InDesign file plus the balloon photo plus the baby, let's call it a logo illustration. Plus you would have to send it the font file. So there's a bunch of stuff that needs to go. This file now has 4 things that go with it: a font, an illustration and a piece and a Photoshop file. So it's four things total, right? It's 1, 2, 3 source elements plus the InDesign file itself. And that's something that you do with professional printers who really are going to run a whole web press, that you don't want to do it with a digital printer. And if you were to send the InDesign file to anyone who doesn't have to have my text, so say I wrote, the font I chose is not a typical font. It's a font called Alaire that I downloaded especially, or maybe it's your boss's font that they paid for, and it's the font that's a copyrighted font that their company uses or whatever. You need to send that file with it, and that file is copyrighted, and you have to pay a licensing to use that font, and you can't just send it to everyone and share it for free. If you've paid someone to own the font, you don't have the rights to share it with other people, as much as if you went to a photographer and licensed their photo to use for your brochure for your business. You can't just say, oh, here, Monica, use it for your business as well. They would have to pay their own rights to the photographer. Does that make sense? Or to the company? So fonts are also designed by designers, and they make money off of getting paid for licensing fees for that font. So you can't willy-nilly send the font to everyone, the photo to everyone. And so digital printers don't even want to go there. What they want is a PDF, and a PDF is kind of like an all-in-one snapshot of your image, of your stuff. They print the PDF, and that's it. There's no residue of licensed photographs, licensed, copyrighted text and all of that. All they want is the one thing, the one file. So let's do that. So we're going to go say File, Export. So we're going to go ahead and export this into a ready for press print PDF, which is not the same as the PDF you would get out of, say, Word or any of that, right? So there's a bit more to it than that, but okay. So am I sharing this, the export page? Is it sharing? The thing that says export, is that sharing itself? Okay, sometimes when I have a pop-up box like this, it doesn't share itself. Okay, so now we're going to call it, gender reveal, save the date. And as you can see, by default, it's trying to save it as a JPEG. Now, that's not bad. If I were trying to put this in social media, guess what you need to do? You need to save it as a JPEG. But I'm not doing social media right now. I'm doing a printer. And you cannot send the same file to social media than you would to a printer, because the resolution would be very different. So I'm going to head down here to format. Now, if you're on a PC machine, it's the other way around. You're seeing the format on top and the file name in the bottom. It's kind of upside down. So in the Mac, the name is up here and the format you're going to choose is up here. And I'm going to choose a PDF. But notice all the different kind of things I can design in Illustrator and InDesign. I could be making two types of PDFs, one for print, the one that we're going to choose, or an interactive one. Remember I said that you can send, have you ever received emails where say, click here, and it's a drawing, it's an illustration, it's an interactive PDF where you have links and stuff like that. That would be that. I could make, this is a ebook, right? Two different formats of ebooks, a fixed layout. You can make into an HTML, which would be code for a website. Anyway, there's so much time that you can do in here. So we're going to choose Adobe PDF. All right. I'm going to clear your answers. And once you choose Adobe PDF, make sure you were going to put it in the, by default, by now, it should be in the same folder we've been using, because it's where your source art has been coming from. And now we're going to say save. And we've got this window. If you got to this window, give me a yes. I want to make sure we're all in the same spot, because things are going to need some explaining right now. Okay. Unless you've done this before and you've ever saved it a PDF and say Word or something, you just save it as a PDF, period. That's it. But this is a PDF for print, and it needs certain information and specs. It needs to be prepared especially. It's not just a regular any old PDF. So the first thing we need to go at the very top is, what type of PDF are we going to be doing? And you see this thing says high quality print. When it open this up, it gives us all these names that are kind of like, what's this all about? Well, each one of these represents presets of what different printing machines out in the world, different presses need your format, your PDF to be saved for this or that or that. And you won't know if you're printing in the United States versus in China versus in, you know, so much printing that happens in China. I have no idea how many times you print something and your files need to go all the way to different. So you need to be in contact with the printer, again, the company, and say, what is your output settings choice? Because you want to give them the one that's really compatible with their company. And so they'll tell you, use this one, use that one, modify it this way or not. But high quality print is a good one for your printer on your desktop, like the one that you have connected to your computer. You would choose high quality print. And a lot of times places like Vistaprint, they basically have souped up versions of what you have on your desktop. So they will also like just the high quality print. But if this is any kind of a professional web press or whatever, they're going to want to go with one of these guys. And yeah, 2001, 2002, 2008 seem like old numbers. It's just formats that were created that people are still using in the world. Now, when you make this choice, you'll be warning, well, use these settings, if you, things that conform to that, you wouldn't know that. You'd have to go call your printer. Does this work for you? If you choose press quality, it's too generic, right? It's going to be like, okay, it's going to work, but it might be too generic. So call your printer, find them what they need, and then do it. But if you're just by default going to one of these online digital printers, high quality print will do the job. Okay, so we choose high quality print. And over here you can see, use these settings to create Adobe PDF Docs for quality printing on desktop printers and proofers. So that's it, desktop printers and proofers, not full on printing. So maybe Vistaprint prefers press quality. It's best suited for high quality pre-press printing. But in the end, pre-press printing is those web-based machines. And you're not going to get 100 from that. You're going to get 10,000. So that's why I'm saying high quality print is basically a desktop printer, but a high quality one is what Vistaprint is going to use. So this tends to be the right choice for that. All right. So we're going to leave it at high quality print. Now, you have other choices that you need to make. Maybe you have 20 pages and you're only going to trying to print one. So you choose which page. In this case, all we have is one page, so we don't need to worry about that. What layers are going to be exported? Anything that's visible and printable. So remember that if we had 2 layers, the one that you don't want should be turned off. You should actually turn the eyeball off of anything that's not supposed to be printed, or anything that's outside in the outside the bleed margins that's in the pasteboard. It won't be worked. It won't be connected. If you have any hyperlinks in it, you would say yes, click, and you would add the hyperlink. So say that over here we had we made a little link to this, a hyperlink to a map or something like that. Then that would be an example of a hyperlink that you might have added. Let me go back. Video PDF print save. Okay.
Diane,
Now, yeah.
could I ask a question? Would a QR code be considered a link?
Yeah, definitely. If you
Okay.
put that said, the way a QR code works is if you just put the illustration of it in your document, the whole point is that you could have it linked in case someone doesn't know how to use it. Someone just receives the print and clicks on it. You could add a link to it, so it takes you to the right site. But if it's printed on a piece of paper, on a business card, it can't be interactive. And the whole point of a QR code is that you'll grab your camera, point to it, and then the link will appear in your camera and you'll go to it. And that is just the black and white little drawing will make you do that. But if it's going to go out into an email, it can have a QR code, which if someone prints, they can use it with their phone. But if they click on it from your email, that QR code as a drawing won't work as a link. So you want to add a hyperlink to that so that they can click on the QR code and it'll take them to what you want. So you include both. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. That way you're covered both ways if you're sending it by email or if you're sending it or if you're printing it. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and if by the way, if I wanted to paint 3 different pages and I wanted all of them, then I could say create separate PDF files. So that gives me 1 per page or something like that. But we have 1 page. So this is all we're going to do here. Compression this has to do with if you have, this has to do with resolution, right? So if you put an image that with a really high resolution, which if you guys have this photo compressed down to say 700 resolution or 1000 resolution because you made it really small, it's just going to go ahead and ignore that, and it's going to tell you that it's going to bring the resolution down back to 300. It's just going to ignore that. You know, it's anything that's above 450, it's going to just kind of compress it back to 300 because it just, computers can't handle that much, right? So it just downsamples it. That's fine. That's automatic. Oh, sorry. My mouse fell. I lost my mouse fell down. Here we go. Yeah. Okay, so then compression, marks and bleeds. This is the one that matters. If your printer, not your desktop, the company, when I say printer, it's hard because you have the company that's the printer, the business that's printer, and then there's your machine that's a printer. If your company says that you want printers marks, you're going to turn them on. Since we said that this is going to Vistaprint, Vistaprint doesn't want printers marks. So we're just not going to do anything here. But the next print that we pulled out, we're going to use printers marks. So for now, we're going to leave this off. Everything here right now is pretty much basic. When you choose high quality print, for someone like Vistaprint, there's no other changes. You need to do nothing. This is pretty, unless you have different pages, that's good enough. So for now, all we're going to do is say, okay, export. One thing I forgot to do is to tell us to change the name to for the name to have like an underscore Vistaprint or something like that. So we know what kind of PDF we're making. So we hit export. Now, if I go to Bridge and I look at my files, did I export it into the right place? Yeah, here it is. I called it gender reveal, so it's under the G, but depending on what you called it, and I kind of made two of them because here's my, I have two files with that name. Let me change the size of this so that they're next to each other. Come now. I want you I want them to be next to each other. Let me grab this so that you can see that I have under the name gender reveal save the date. I have my INDD, which is my InDesign document. And it's telling you there's some links to this thing. Okay. And then I have my save the date.pdf. This is the one that I just created. And what I forgot to do is explain what kind of PDF this is. So I can go over here and I can rename it either by clicking and doing that, or I can right click and rename just like you would rename anything. And I'm just going to add dash whatever, Vistaprint, or I can even dash, oops, I didn't mean to change the right, save the date, underscore Vistaprint. And I'll know that that's only going to be good if I go to that printer. I shouldn't send that one to someone. I shouldn't, what did I do? There we go. So now I have my Vistaprint PDF, and I have my gender reveal save the date InDesign, and then over here up under the name boy, I have the actual source art, the PSD, which was just called boy gender reveal, and the baby, which is called .ai. And I'm kind of lucky because I was able to save it all in the same folder. But a lot of the times you've got stuff in one part of the computer, another part of the computer, you left someone gave you a photo and you left it in your, in your other hard drive. So stuff can be all over the place. So now we're gonna head over. And in fact, if I go to my Finder, I'm not showing you my Finder window, but if I were to go to the Finder window, let me share this. For a second, share this, add another window to this share. Share this one. Okay, so do you guys see? No, because I chose one that's on a different page. Hold on. Do you guys see my Finder window, or is it not being shared? Let me just redo this. it's not, I just have the wrong window shared. Okay. So, and since I'm on a Mac, this would be a Finder window. If you're on a PC, it would be a. So the point I'm trying to make is we need to understand it for the next time is right now I have a folder with a whole bunch of stuff. And somewhere over here, and I just showed it to you in Bridge, but somewhere in the amongst all this kind of stuff are all the different parts and pieces that make up this image, right? If I have them all have the same name, that's fine. But over here I have my InDesign, then I have my art, my PSD. If I have them sorted by name or by time or whatever I'm looking at, they're all messy, they're mixed. What if I had 2,000 images in here? Because you know I have a ton of photos. They'd be all over the place, right? Or I might have one in this folder, one in that folder, one in the last folder. So what we're going to do next is actually say, okay, this file needs to go to a professional, not professional, they're all professional, but a pre-press printer. We're going to run, you know, a large set of these. We're going to be going to, it's called a pre-press kind of machine, where you can press in, you know, there's newspaper machines or it's big machines that just do not look at all like the little printer that we have on our desktop. So we need, and they tell us that they want a PDF, but they also want the original files. Okay. Because, and again, imagine that you have a typo and the printer that you chose is in China. And when you're asleep, they're awake. When you're awake, they're asleep. And when they open the files, they're going to run a proof. Those people will run a proof. You know, people like Vistaprint, they're going to run a proof and they're going to send it to you. And you're going to look at it and you go, oh, okay, the colors are too dark. The colors are too light, whatever. And then you see that there's a typo. And you go, oh, shoot, there's a typo. But they already have the files set up, the machine set up, triggered, ready to go as soon as you give them the okay. Well, they can fix your typo. As long as they have the original files, they can't fix a typo on a PDF. Or if you have, they're missing the link and you send them the wrong link or whatever, they can still do work on the files. They need to have the original InDesign files with all the links and the font and everything. Does that make sense? PDF won't do it. The PDF is like, boom, it's like a photocopy. It's a snapshot. It's a photograph of your piece. They can't do anything to that. So we're going to send them, we're going to go over here and we're going to send them everything. But what we're going to do then is we're going to package. Okay, so the same place we went file, export, file this, we're going to package this first. We're going to create a little nicely ribbon packed package that we're then going to send to the printers. And it's going to include all my links, in this case, the baby from Illustrator, my balloon from Photoshop, my font from the bowels of my computer that you wouldn't probably even know where to find it in the system folder files and and the InDesign file itself, and a PDF ready to print with printer's marks. So all of that is going to go into this package. And if you have 20 photos, then it's 20 links. And you have 20 illustrations, it's 20 illustrations. So we're going to click on package and Photoshop. InDesign is going to do that for us. All right, so file package. And the entire publication consists of, and it tells you here, fonts, one font used, it's not missing, they found it, got it. Computer knows how to go in and find it. Links and images, and it's warning you, okay, we have 2 links, and none of them have been modified or missing, so all is good. None of them are inaccessible, none of them are embedded. They're using the RGB color space, one of them, whatever. So they're warning you about the RGB color space, which might not, or might or not be the best for printing. Right now, we're gonna say, yeah, it's fine for printing. They're going to use 4-process color ink. So it's basically telling you what this is all about. If you have special printing instructions, like you have, like, make sure to do a die cut or whatever, you can click on that and you can send them on top of that a package that tells you, or even says, hey, I'm on Pacific time frame. When you need to call me, I'll be available at this phone number if something's wrong. Like that could also be printing instructions, right? How to contact you if something's wrong. We're not going to put printing instructions. We're going to go to fonts. It went into to my computer and found my font. It found it. If this had a big warning mark, they wouldn't be able to find the font. Links and images. It's pointing out to the 2 links and images. All is good. It's telling you that colors and links, print settings, the whole shebang. It's telling you what it's going to do. If all is good, we're saying, okay, package. So this is just telling you what it's going to do. And by default, it's got it. So say package. Okay, package. Oh, yeah, if I haven't saved yet, it wants the latest version. So
If you've saved, it's fine. If you haven't saved, just go ahead and save it. And then it says, okay, where do you want to save this? And what it's making is a folder, right? It's making a folder, and in that folder, it's going to put all these things. And so, yeah, call it the same name, gender reveal, save the date. And it's telling you that it's going to copy. Okay, it's going to copy your fonts. It's going to copy the graphics. So everything is going to be copied. So you're going to have two versions of this balloon boy, two versions of this, whatever. It's going to copy everything. Select PDF preset. Here's what it's going to ask you, what kind of preset do you want? And in this case, if your printer has said they need a different kind, you go for that. But let's say that we want the high quality print, and then we say package. And it warns you, restrictions applied to copying font software for you. So it's all the version about, all the copyright license and all that information you need to be careful with respect to the font that I was just talking about. Is warning you, you can't just send anyone font. If they're going to use it, they have to print your stuff and throw away their font. They can't use it for themselves. That's what this says. And so, okay, I got it. Thank you. And then you're done. It's saved. Okay, let's go see what happened. What got saved? I'm going to go into Bridge. And as I look at all my files, I'll discover that I still have my InDesign, my Vistaprint, my Baby Reveal, all of that is still hanging out all over the place. But now I have a folder called Gender Reveal, Save the Date folder. All right, give me a yes if you found your folder. And you guys have your packaged folder. If you got it and life is good, we're going to double click. Okay, so before we move forward, yeah, Julie. Want to share your screen?
Mine was showing me some errors and I was trying to fix that, so I kind of lost the whole.
All right, so
Here
go
you go.
ahead and share your screen and I'll help you catch up. And I would like to know what errors. Yeah, I haven't pointed you to a place that shows your errors. So let's see if you have any error I'd like to do. So, okay, share your screen.
I did. Oh, sorry.
No. All right. Okay, so when she's saying it's showing some errors, if you look at the bottom of her invitation, wait, go back to the invitation.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
If you look at the bottom, right under where the baby is, keep going down, 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 and you'll see that there's a little red dot that says one error. You see that? I haven't shown you yet that. She has an error. So when she tried to do that, she's began being warned, there's an error, there's an error. Okay, and what's happening here in the error, can you guys imagine, look at your screen. I've shown you this already, so I want everyone to guess. We're not talking just to Julie, I'm talking to the whole class. What error can you see now? And if you don't see it, what can you do to find that error? Yeah, you were pointing to the right thing. There it is. There's a sign warning. And if you actually look at your baby, you'll see that it's all kind of pixelated and weird. Sometimes that doesn't tell you. So basically you've modified this link and you haven't yet updated it. So go ahead and click on that to update. Good. Now look at your warning for errors down there and see how it says no errors.
Okay.
Yeah, you fixed it. Another place to fix errors would have been from the links panel. And then there's another place to fix errors from, but I'm going to show you in a minute when we're done with this package. That's a pre-flight menu. So for now, you're done. You fixed it, save, and then go and say file, save first, and then say file package.
I'm trying to get to my save.
File save first, perfect. And now back to file and say package, which is way at the bottom, way at the bottom. There it is, one up, there it is, file. One down, file package, there you go, click on that. Now say package, because you're fine. Yep. And we'll put it in the same place. So all the settings are fine. Just say code package in the bottom right. Yep. Restrictions apply to copying font center. Okay, yay. And now go to your Bridge. Whoops, your Bridge is not open. You haven't been using Bridge.
No, Bridge was open. I just somehow closed it a few minutes ago. I
Okay.
didn't mean to.
Well, go ahead and open Bridge then, because what you're using there is not Bridge. You're using the File Explorer. And since
Oh.
you're the one who asked me why we're using it, I want you to understand that there's a huge place of why to use it. But if you just rather not use Bridge right now, go to your Find Explorer to the right folder and find your folder that you've called, that has been created. That's called,
Yeah, I
the
don't know
name
where
of
the
your
Bridge
file.
went, actually. I mean,
Well,
under
it's okay, but you have your File Explorer there, so you were doing it. Let's not spend much more time opening Bridge. Just go to your File Explorer, which is what you were on it. Maybe you don't know that it's called File Explorer, but that thing you were on a second ago, looking for all your files, not there, top left, now it kind of is probably hiding under me. Go back to that little thing that looks like a folder on the bottom to the left. Yeah, that pulls up. Yeah, click on that. Yeah, that's your File Explorer. Do you see it? Did it come to the front now? Yeah, now move that. Yeah, so you had it big a second ago and then you collapsed it. Make it bigger. Make it really big so that we can all see in there. Okay, this is your File Explorer, which is the PC version of Bridge, if you want. It does much less than Bridge, but anyway, it's just a finder. And up there at the top, you see the folder called Gender Reveals, Save the Date file folder. And it says 2, so it makes like you already made one. But okay, so double click on it. Everyone now in Bridge, double click on it. And you'll see that what this folder contains is, oh, you're not seeing the extensions. I really hate not seeing the extensions. See how you can't see, there's the same name 3 times, but you're not seeing their actual dot, what they are. So you have to go over to Type and Design side. Top one is the InDesign. The second one is your PDF. So you say Gender Reveal, Save the Date 2, Gender Reveal, Save the Date 2, Gender Reveal, Save the Date 2. You see what I mean? Those 3. You need to understand what kind of format these things are. So those of you who are on a Mac or PC Finder that doesn't tell you what it is, that's why, again, and Bridget just tells you, one of these is the InDesign, one of these is a PDF, one of these isn't. So if you're going to not use Bridge and use this, go up to View and up to there where it says View in your Finder and have it add your, is it here? I don't remember on the PC where it shows you the extensions. I don't know on the PC where you would have turned it on, but you want to see the extensions. If you're doing this kind of work, you need to know, either use Bridge or you need to have your computer tell you what kind of files these are. Anyway, you're there, you got it. I'm going to stop your share. Hang in there while I share and show you guys now what Bridge looks like. So here's my package. Oh, here's Bridge. I double click my package and the files that I have in there are, oh, I'm missing my fonts package. Where's my font? I should have a folder here that says fonts. You got, Julie had it. Do you guys have a folder here that says fonts? Did I somehow?
Mine is
manage
under
to-
the links.
Oh, they put it inside the links. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, normally it's 2 separate files like Julie had. Okay, so basically it gives me 3 files and a folder. Normally it would have been 2. And if you open up the links, no, these are the links. It's not the files. Where in the world did the font go? That's weird. Let me recreate. Let me just delete this for a second and do it again. This has never been an issue.
Oh, yes, there is
Okay.
a folder called Document Fonts.
Yeah. I don't know why mine isn't doing it. Let me go back in here. I do so many things when I'm showing that I might have turned something off. I'm gonna go package. I'm gonna leave everything the regular setup package. And I'm gonna go ahead and it says copy font. See, it does say that. I'm gonna go ahead and say package and I'm gonna have it to replace it. And it'll say okay. And it's giving me a warning. Save the date exists. Yes, replace. A file with above name, choosing a name of package. Oh, okay. Okay, gender reveal. The second one. It doesn't want to give you 2, so I'm gonna say 2. Okay, package. And okay. All right, let me go to my Bridge. And my second package, better have my, ow! I've never had this. My folder, my fonts folder is missing. Do you guys have a fonts folder here? I have no idea. I'm gonna go and figure out my settings. Something's glitching, but I should have a fonts folder. I saw it in Julie's. Monica's saying yes. So hopefully you all have it. And I don't know what glitch is happening. But what should be happening is I should see here a folder that if I open it up, it has my font, which in my case, the name was Aller or something like that. Then I have a folder called links and it's got my Adobe Illustrator and my PSD. And yes, I can send a whole PSD to the printer. I don't need to have flattened it. If I have one photo, that's fine. And then I have 3 files here. One of them is the baby PDF. One of them is my InDesign. So it's all been copied over into this folder. And one of them is something called an IDML. And this is what I mean by seeing the extensions so that you can see what each one is, which in the bridge, it shows it to you automatically, but in the Finder window on the PC, for example, in Julie, it wasn't showing it. So this one, IDML, is a version of InDesign that if the person who opens it has a different version than your version, they can still open the file. So say that I have 2024 and I send it to a printer who has 2023, this file wouldn't open. It doesn't open downwards when people have older versions of InDesign. Maybe they have 2020. They wouldn't be able to open this one, but they could always open this one. And this one would be missing any new updates that 2024 would have. If I made a special trick that only 2024 has, when you open this one, that trick wouldn't be there. So your file might be altered, but at least they can open it and use it versus this one would be unopenable. You need to, it's not backwards compatible. Okay. So you send this to the printer, including the fonts file, which I don't know why I'm not showing it. And it's basically, it collected everything from everywhere, made a copy of it and put it in there ready to go. And this is the folder that goes. Now, this PDF right now wasn't a special one that I made with all of the printer copies. So I might still want to make a formal PDF with all the printer's marks. I went ahead and let it do whatever it made automatically, but most of the time this is not, this is just it's called for viewing purposes kind of thing. You should almost change the name gender reveal PDF for viewing purposes so that the printer can see what it is that you were hoping to see at the end. That PDF is just for viewing purposes. We're going to go back to InDesign and we're going to export a printer, pre-press printer version of PDF. Let's go back one more time to InDesign, go back to export, go back to export. And now we're going to create a, the other PDF, we would call it for printing FPO, for placement only, for viewing only, or in this case, for the printer, right? For printing, let's call it. For printing, and I'm going to put it inside that folder. So I'm going to go find my folder that I just created, and I'm going to use the gender reveal 2 folder. I'm going to go, let's just do this one since neither one has a folder. I'm going to say okay to that, and I'm going to save it. And here is where I'm going to go ahead and head over to the marks and bleeds. And your printer might say that they only want bleed, or they only want crop, or they only want registration. We're going to say all so I can teach you what they are. All printers marks. And before I say export, I want to make sure that everyone followed me and that you're all here with me. So as long as you're all here with me and you got to this place, to the marks and bleeds, then give me a yes. If I left you behind somewhere, or if you need a hand, please speak up or give me a no. I'm only seeing in real life Monica, so everyone else I'm expecting to see a yes or a no to get any feedback from you guys. So I'm seeing most of the yeses. Okay, yeses everywhere. Monica, of all things, I don't have your yes. Are you good? Give me a okay, good. All right, so I'm gonna hit export. Cool. So let's go see that thing which we exported. Let's head back to Bridge or to wherever you're looking at these things. And I'm actually going to open up my folder. And I have another PDF here, and it's the PDF that I called for printing purposes, right? Let me just make this a little bigger so you guys can see that this is my PDF. And I'm going to make it really big so that we don't, you can even see that this PDF is different than the regular PDF. This PDF just shows me kind of like what I want to see. But this PDF, the one for printing, has all the printer's marks. Let's double click on check it out a little bit. Let's open it up, double click. And let's have this open up, and it's probably gonna open up for me in a different application. For me, it opened up in I have the professional version of Acrobat. If you don't have it, then it'll open the Acrobat Reader, or it might open in the preview. It'll open in a couple different places, but here we go. We could have opened it even in Photoshop. Here is the printer's marks on my PDF. If you see this, if you're able to open it, give me a yes. If it opened in something or somewhere, give me a yes, and then I'll start to explain it. All right, I'm waiting for some yeses. Okay. This is the PDF that you want to send to someone who's got more than just a basic desktop printer, because they're going to be, when I'm talking about that is because you're going to need them to know where to cut. What they're going to do here is they're going to print this on a big sheet, this big, huge sheet, and you'll have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 versions of this repeated on those sheets. And to get to 10,000, you might, to be rows and rows of this one image. And then they need to know where to cut. And the first thing you're going to see is that the trim line versus the cut line. I must have not selected bleed because it's only showing me the trim line, which is weird. Again, I must have like messed up with my settings for another printer, and I don't have I think I saw that it said modified there, but hopefully you're also seeing the bleed. You should also be seeing the bleed here with a second line here. This is the trim marks, right? So as you can see, if you extend it over, it's exactly what we're trying to see. So it's basically showing you the part where the machines are going to come and do the cut. But it should also have the bleed and another line here marking you the bleed, which for some reason it's not showing right now. I need to go and see what's happening in Design's doing some weird stuff today. And then it also has the registration marks over here, those little like bullet points. What are these things called? Targets, whatever, are registration marks. Now, why do we need registration marks? Is because if you go to a big old pre-press to print, which you might be going, I'm just taking this class for me, for my stuff, I probably never need it. But if you're going to be working with someone who, makes multiple copies of stuff, this is the kind of stuff you're going to do. And they're going to end up printing 5 different sheets, which are going to be film. And one is going to have all the yellow ink, one is going to have the blue, one is going to have the red, and then they're going to pass this paper through the printers 4 times. One time it's going to capture the yellow, one time it's going to capture the magenta, one time it's going to capture, CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And those films need to be registered with each other so that this looks good, and you don't have you ever seen the kind of material where you have a little tiny edge of a different color on something? That's because the films weren't in good registration. So sometimes I capture it in the Independent or anything like that, that you'll see a photo that's kind of like a little bit off. That's a problem with registration having not been set up correctly. And then over here, you have a grayscale, and here you have a color sample chart. And what this is for the printer to be able to run a proof, and they pull it out, a color proof, they pull it out and they compare. This yellow, they know what it should look like on their printer. And if they pull out a copy and they look at it and the yellow is very orangey, if the pink is very purpley, if the blue is very reddish or whatever, they know something's wrong. They have machines that they can measure this with, and then they need to change the settings on their printer to go back and fix it. So basically they want a print that looks like these. They don't know what green you chose. They don't know what red you chose or what blue you chose, but they know that this needs to look good according to how their printer should show it. So once they get the tones, color, the lightness or darkness is what this checks for, and the colors to look like they should, then they send you a proof. You look at it and you go, oh no, the green is too dark or green. Then it's up to you. That it's your computer that needs to be fixed, and you need to send them another file. But if if you look at these and you look at them, their yellow's really off, then it's, they have to fix their printer. So anyway, that's, you do a press check. This is called. You check on their proofs, you decide, they move things around, whatever, and then you go, okay, I'm giving you go ahead, there's no typos, go for it. Run 10,000 copies and off they go, and they run the 10,000 copies. And then they do the cuts. Down here, it has the file name and the version which you send them, because they might have printed off of an older version and you're like, no, you should have printed off of this one where I had corrected the typo. So yeah, that's the timing of when you created this final one to make sure that they're printing off of the right one. Right, so that's all the information that a printer is going to need on the file. I'm seeing two hands. Monica.
So when I packaged mine, my PDF somehow did not come out with those printer marks.
Yeah,
Where
the
should I-
package,
Yeah.
exactly,
go-
the package didn't do it, which is
Okay.
why I went in and doing it. The packaged one is
Uh-huh.
like that. It's got nothing.
Okay,
So
so you
I
did a
went back
separate
into
one, I found it.
InDesign and we
Okay.
did a second one and we did another file export. But on this one, we and I called it for printing,
Okay.
but on this one, I gave it a different name. I called it for
Okay.
printing. And on this one, I went to Marks and Bleeds and I turned on
I
all the
see.
printers.
Okay,
marks.
I somehow
Now-
must have missed that part. Thank you.
Actually,
I don't
Deanna,
understand.
the little button below bleed and slug has to be clicked to get the,
Oh, there it is. Thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. Use document bleed settings. Okay, yeah, I'm
Okay.
dispersed. So
Thank
even
you.
though you turn this on, you also have to tell it to use the bleed settings. Otherwise, it
Okay.
just goes by default, which isn't such a big deal in the end, because if you were to say use this much in here, it would use that much. But since you already set them up in the document, you just click on that and there you go. Now, I didn't tell it to include slug area. It only told it to include bleed. Yeah, I had missed out on that. I'm like, what's happening? I'm just thinking there's weird stuff happening, and that's what was missing. Then I hit export. That is the file that I'm going to go open in right now. Double click.
Okay, thank you.
Let me close the old one and open the right one now. And so now my PDF for printing will have the bleed and the cut. There we go. So I had missed out on clicking on that. So now my PDF has, these are the trim cropping lines. You're going to cut out the bleed. And those lines now are the bleed lines. See, there's no more color after that. But this here is where the machines are going to cut off. Ideally, if they do a good job, cut off and leave this little piece in the ground. And then this and here is going to be what's printed. Okay. If that worked for you, if you guys have it this way, and if you didn't redo it, you might be missing that because I forgot to tell you to do it,
I
and go ahead
actually-
and export a new one.
I have something else. I get a message that I have overset. Oh God, what is it?
Oh, okay, so let's go ahead and-
Overset text.
Yeah, so
What
show
is
your,
that?
yeah, we're gonna go ahead and, actually, you don't need to share your screen. I'm gonna show you what Everset text is. It's
okay.
an error. So
Right.
if you go to your InDesign, you probably have an error mark. So let me
Yeah.
share it now. You know how, was it Julie who couldn't move up forward because she had, an overset, she had an error marking?
Mhm.
In your case, you had probably been warned that there was an error and you just overwrote it and kept going.
Right.
But down here, you probably have a red thing that says errors. And if there's an error,
Right.
it's important. Don't overwrite it because something is wrong. And then as you see, it doesn't let you continue. So what is overset text? There's many ways you could have overset text, but let me just show you. There's something that you wrote that the box is too small for, and we're going to actually explore text deeply next class. But
Mhm.
say that this box, that's my area, this is my box. If I move it over here, I think that it's good. I might not notice that something's missing, or I might have it cut off there. And you see this little red box here that's telling me there's more, there's more. You're
Yes,
hiding,
I
there's
have
something that you
that.
hid. So you
I
need
have
to make
that.
it bigger.
Mhm.
And so until you, that little thing was marking, so I'm gonna do that and have some overset text. And down there immediately, see, one error.
Oh, okay. It's
I have
gone.
an error. Once I do that, I have no more errors. Now
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and create an overset text problem with, sometimes you don't notice because it looks good and you're busy and you're checking it, and maybe it's not even your party, so you're not even sure that there was a schedule on there, and you're like, I'm ready to print. Or maybe, which is what had happened to Julie, you had made a change here, so I'm gonna go ahead and select a different color, right? So maybe I had made it green and I said save and I went into InDesign and now I have, that is another error. Oh, did I save it? It should be telling me that it's, here we go. It's been changed. So now I go over here to InDesign and now there's that other error. So now I have two errors. Okay, so I told you I would show you other places to find errors. So now everyone go and purposely make an error. The easiest one to do is overset text. Make the box that holds your text have something disappear. That's the easiest error to force. Another error would be a modified, another error would be a missing font. There's all these different kind of errors, but right now, that's an easy error. And you should see here at least a little red ball with at least one error. Now, that one, if you know that that's the error, I told you it's easy to fix that way, right? But the other error that's here, you wouldn't know where it is. And what if you have a document, 20-page document, and you see that there it says 4 errors? How do you find where the error is in those 40 pages? Well, there's a tool here where it says that there's an error called the pre-flight that is going to point me to where those errors are. So, you know, before you take off in an airplane, you've heard, I've never done it, but I've heard about where they start checking and, you know, the pre-flight check. So here you're about to send this off to the printer, right? And you got to do a pre-flight check. Even if you don't, you know, think that there's any errors, you should always look down here because if there's an error, it will be caught. And so, oh, you can't see it, but when I click on this, there's a thing that's saying pre-flight panel. Click on the pre-flight panel and this little panel will open up. And in this panel, you should have a description of your errors. You might have 10 errors, 20 errors, whatever you have. It's telling you that there's an error in your link. So when I open it up, it's telling me that there's a modified link that I haven't updated. And I go, oh, okay, but maybe it's on page 20 and I don't know where it is. So if I open this up, it's telling me this file, okay, this file hasn't been fixed. And it's easy for me to now to see it right there and to go fix it. But again, what if I have 200 pages, 20 pages? This would take me to whatever page it is. It would say page 25. So I would click and it would take me to page 25. In this case, it took me to this and it said, see, there's your error. And so I'd go, oh yeah, I got it. I need to click on that to fix that error. Cool. We're left with only one error now. Okay. All right. I had made it green. Now I fixed that. What's my next error? It's in the text. I click on that and it says, oh, overset text. That's it. Overset text means that I have text that I am not seeing. My text box has more text than what I'm seeing. Again, what page in the world is this mistake? Maybe it's on page 75. I click on this and it jumps to page 75, which in case is right here. And it shows me this box has overset text. And I see that little plus sign that's red and I go, oh yeah. So then I fix that. I let all the text in. And once I don't see that little box anymore, I look over here and boom, no errors. All the errors have been cleared out. Great panel. I was professionally working in the time when this panel didn't exist. Oh my God, I was the art director in a company where I had, 6 designers turning in stuff. And I had to, one by one, check all their files to make sure that they didn't have any of this mistakes that people make all the time. And I'd have to send it back to them to correct them. We had this like checklist of 3 pages long. Check this, check this, check this, check this. It was like a manual pre-flip panel before we could send it off. And then this beautiful little tool called Pre-Flight Panel appeared where you can do your own checking. And it was like, yes, the whole file is being checked by the computer. That doesn't mean that I might have other things to edit. I might have written a gender reveal party like I did without an uppercase here. Gender reveal party, this should an uppercase. That's something I need to catch, kind of like an editor tool kind of mistake where I go, the computer, the pre-flight panel, maybe I wrote pre-flight gender reveal tardy. That I need to catch. A human being has to catch that. But a technical mistake, which is what these were, is going to be caught by the pre-flight panel. Okay. I'm going to close the pre-flight panel. I'm going to say I'm ready to go. And then I'm going to go ahead and fix that. All right. I'm going to undo this color change because I'd rather not. And if I can design, I have to push it in again. All right. Any questions? Anything about this that remains unclear? For anyone for whom it didn't work, I'm going to stop my share for a minute. If you gives a chance to look at your stuff without me sharing. How's it going? If it's good, give me a yes. If it didn't work, you weren't able to make an error and then correct the error with the pre-flight panel, then I can show you again where. I like your little ooh, mark. All right. Looks like everyone's good. Monica? I'm not getting a yes, but okay. Since I'm seeing you, a nod is enough. All right, good. Cool. So that was the life cycle of something that goes to a print, either digital printer or a professional P-Press printer, who receives all the individual files plus also receives the PDF. Because if everything is good, they might end up, they might end up using the PDF too. But they have all the files to, if something's wrong, correct it and do that. But many times they'll use your InDesign file to create that film, right? And then they'll run it through the printer. So you, depending on the printer, they'll use one set of files or another. Some people might go, oh, we don't need the PDF. But if you send them a PDF, at least you can show them what you're expecting them to print. Maybe there's complicated stuff. There's foils and dies and cuts and stuff like that. And you need to show them, this is what I want. And that's what the PDF works for, even if then they use the actual files to print with. All right. Now, what if we don't go to print? What if what we're intention for this file, or we go to print and we're going to publish this online. We're going to put it in a different version. So if you're going to do that, you're going to have to set out a different kind of file. So let me share my screen. And now we're going to play around with the possibility that we are not going to print, or we are going to print, and in addition, we're going to create, and this is the typical, I'm gonna go ahead, come in. The typical choice for this is that, oh, by the way, I've closed this, but please can you go into your, do a screenshot of your, printer's marks, proof, ready to go, with invitation or whatever this is, save the date, to put in the Padlet. I'm gonna once again give you here the Padlet link. I put it in many times, but sometimes it's hard to find it. Please make sure to do that. If you have a chance, go back to InDesign and maybe make an error again, right? And then open the pre-flight panel here so that you can kind of do a screenshot of this. Remember, what this whole thing looks like, your pre-flight check and the error and that kind of stuff, right? Anyway, I should be reminding you when we're doing it so you don't have to redo the errors, but yeah, sometimes I'm just teaching and I forget to tell you to do the screenshots of that. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, I'm going to send it by email and I'm going to post it in one social media format in particular over another. Okay. So since it's okay, yeah, I'm going to post it on my website or whatever, on my blog, whatever it is that I'm doing. Hold on, I'm stepping on my lace that came undone and I'm about to fall. I don't know if you guys know, but when at my computer, I stand in front of my computer. So, so yeah, I'm going to trip on myself if I can't sit this long and I teach so many classes, I have to be moving. So I have a standing desk here. All right. So I'm going to go and say that I'm going to put it on Instagram and I'm going to email it. So I'm going to do 2-in-1. I'm going to go ahead and choose to make it ready for what Instagram needs. Okay, that's my 15-minute warning. I'm going to say that I'm going to do it for Instagram, and then that same thing that I do for Instagram is going to function perfectly well for my email. That said, you can also send the email the PDF that had no printing marks, that would be a good PDF to send by email. But it's too much, meaning it has all of the high resolution. And if people are going to print it out, that's good. But if a printer is just going to see it on an email, that's a big file. So you might want to redo that and give them a PDF that's not the for print version, so that it's lower in resolution, so that you don't have to send such a big file. So we're going to just do that with a JPEG. So I'm going to go into InDesign, and we're going to say File, Export.
Yeah, baby.
File. Oh, I'm going to mute Monica. Some stuff going on in the background. Okay, File, Export. Okay, so we're going to File, Export. And we're going to choose, see, the Adobe PDF for print is a high resolution print. If you choose Adobe PDF Interactive, that's one going to have lower resolution, so that you can put that one in your email. But right now, we're just going to go with JPEG, because the JPEG is what you're going to need to go to social media. And it's also what you're going to need to, you can also email this one if you want, because it's for screen purposes only. All right. So you went for that. You said save it as a JPEG. There's no other choices right now. You say save. And then this little box comes up going, okay, what kind of JPEG do you want to save? Now, you don't have too many choices here, to say the truth. It's better to save it and then to fix it in Photoshop. But basically, there's some things that here are pretty clear. First of all, if for any reason you're making this be a JPEG that should be used for printing, which sometimes it is, you're about to put this photo in an advertisement that's going to go on the Independent or whatever, and you're going to send them a JPEG, you probably should send them a PDF. But if you're going to send them a JPEG, then you should click this and turn it into a 300 PPI, right? Since we're going to social media, 72 PPI is correct. Okay. Now, if it's going to be on the internet and you're going to social media is on the internet, and if it's going to be anywhere that's on the internet, then you might want to change well, your RGB is fine. They're not talking about sRGB. Okay, here it is, color profile sRGB. That's what you want. Okay, that was there already. So RGB is good. If this were going to print, you would want to make it CMYK and 300. That's what you would need for print. But nope, this is not print. I've told you the choice. That's why you always need to keep in mind what's your output for this file. You're going to make one JPEG for printing and one JPEG for social media, and you better name them right so that you don't send the wrong one to the wrong place, right? Hopefully you're understanding now that every output needs its own export, its own material for it to show up the best as possible. All right, so we're going to leave it at 72 and RGB. And the other thing that we need to keep an eye on is quality. If this is going to be an image that I'm going to use to print a poster to show the high quality of my photography or something, I would want this to be a high quality, maximum quality. This is going to make this be a much bigger file, but that's fine. I don't care, because I'm supposed to show something that's really important. But I just said that this is for email and for social media. Medium quality is perfect. This has to do with the compression, the amount of compression you're going to get. And you want to compress the file and make it as small as possible if it's going to go on the internet, so that it pops up quickly and it doesn't like take some time to resolve itself. So medium is fine. We don't have a visual of it's going to look here. So if you would prefer a visual, you're have to do it with a different tool. But right now, this is good enough for what we're going to do, which is basically post it into social media. So we're going to say export. So now when we go to our good old bridge, we've added a JPEG. Save the date JPEG. Now, the only problem with this JPEG, if I look over here, is that I wasn't able to check how many pixels it should be. That version of saving that we didn't tell me. Like, it's not a really good, from InDesign, you don't get a lot of choices in what kind of JPEG you're going to do. And yes, it's a tiny file size, but the dimensions are only 394 pixels by 303 pixels. That, boys and girls or friends of mine, is not enough for an Instagram post. How do I know? Because I went and did some research and I was told that to do a good Instagram post, it's going to be landscape ratio. Should have at least 180 pixels by 566 pixels in my file. And guess what? What I ended up here with is with only 394 by 303. That's much less, isn't it? Yeah. You following? You're getting where I'm coming from. All of this is building upon all the resolution information and everything that I've been teaching you since last time. There's just a lot of what's the right size for the medium file. And this is not the right size. If I post this, it might look good because Instagram's very forgiving or whatnot, but it's gonna probably look, maybe the text is gonna be a little bit blurry. Since it has text, I should probably send my friends on email a PDF. But you can't post a PDF to Instagram, to social media, so you have to do a JPEG. So what are you going to do about this? Well, then let's move up and figure out if I can fix this some other way. I'm going to head over here and instead I'm going to say, and I check that my link does have enough, that my file does have enough resolution and stuff. And it's like, oh, well, that's one of the problems. I made this bigger and, I find that I don't have enough resolution around. That's fine. You've already checked that. You need to make sure that you check that you have enough stuff. But even then, my photo says that it's 3,873 pixels, but I expanded it so much that maybe all I've got left in here is 300 pixels because see, that was 3,000 pixels, but maybe this bit of it is only 300. That doesn't really compute because if this is 3,000s, this is probably 1/3. It's at least 900, I think. If that from there to there is 3,000, I should have from here to here about 1/3 of that. But that could also be the problem that you've made it so big that you're only seeing a portion of it. You're not printing the full 3,000. So these are all thoughts you need to have. And in this case, it should not be just 3,000. Let me see if I can export this in a different way. So I'm going to export this again. And I'm going to choose JPEG again. I'm going to say save again. I'm going to replace it. And now over here, let me see if I change this a little bit in resolution, if it might give me more pixels. I'm not sure that's going to work, but we got to see. Say that I go back to having it be 300 pixels. I have a bad feeling that this won't change the amount of pixels that it's going to put out, but it might or not work. If not, we have to go into Photoshop to change this. So I'm going to go ahead and say export. And all I did was I gave it more. I could also give it higher quality. Just let's try two things. Instead of maximum, let's try high quality. I'm just doing different things to see if my JPEG now might be more appropriate. I hit export, go back to Bridge, make sure that it's been refreshed and that you have the new version. Sorry, I need to go in. To refresh it, I just went and got out and in of the same PDF. And now when I click on the new JPEG, by changing that to 300 PPI, and what it had to do, it had to give me more pixels. So from the original 3,000 pixels that I have to the 300 that I have when I went to 72 PPI, by giving it more openings for resolution, and now I have a 1,600 by 1,200 JPEG. So is it gonna work for this? I have 1,600 by 800. Is it bigger than this? You don't want it to be smaller. Is it bigger than this? I would say, yeah. So at least it's not too small. Okay. So if at least it's not too small, then what we have to do is either be okay with that it's just not too small, right? Which is one thing, or we can actually right size it in Photoshop. So that's the last thing I'm gonna do, because I'm being like, most of the times you just send this, that's good. But hey, we're trying to do this right. So what do you mean right size it in Photoshop? Well, the proportion that they're asking for, 1080 by 560, would seem like it's about double as wide as high. And if I look at this, clearly that proportion is not being followed. It looks like what Instagram is going to do is maybe it's going to chunk off a piece of the baby or chunk off a piece of the address. Do you understand what I mean? 16 by 12, the proportion is a bit squarer than what they're saying, which is 1,000 by 500, which means that you're going to probably end up having something that big and that long. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Proportionally, something's wrong. It's like they're saying this has to be 2 and this 1, and what we have here is 2 and 1.8, you know, so it's like, okay, so what I can do is I go into Photoshop and fix that sizing in Photoshop. So this is like cherry on the top, just because I would make sure not to lose anything. I'm going to just double click. Since it's a JPEG, it'll open in Photoshop. Then I'm going to go into image size. And with the resample off, just so I'm clear, I'm going to go ahead and choose, instead of measuring this by inches, let's measure this by pixels. Oh, that's true. It's not going to let me do that here. I'm going to have to do that in the export as. Okay. I'm going to go to the export as instead of in this one. They changed that one. I'm in Photoshop. Export as. I've opened my JPEG for the gender reveal party, and I'm going to have to change the pixels for this one. So in my export at here, I have my pixels, and I'm going to make my width be right, which is 1080. And when I hit tab, it's going to be 1080 by 831. And just so you know, Instagram said that their post had to be 1080 by 566. So see how it's just wider than we need? Yeah, that's fine. I'm almost done. Thank you, Alyssa. So when we post it on Instagram, it's going to cut off a little bit of the top and a little bit of the bottom. In this case, that'll still work as long as it does it centered. I won't lose anything. But if I'm worried about that, then I would have to go in and redesign one where my text goes a little bit higher so that it doesn't get cut off by Instagram. I don't want to distort it. If I were to want to distort it, then I could do that, but I don't want to. So that's good enough. I'm fine. I see that it's safe to cut off the top and the bottom. So this is good enough. I don't care. But if I really did care, then I would have to go ahead and be more careful. I would have to go back to Photoshop, move the text up to InDesign, move the text up, give it a better margin, and then export it again. I'm going to go ahead and export it this way, and it's got the same file name, so it's gonna, when I say yeah, maybe I'm going to call this one for Instagram. So it won't tell me to replace. If I don't call it for Instagram, it's going to have me replace. But basically, since I did have it replaced, now I've ended up with a folder that has my version of PDF for printing, my version of IDML in case they have the wrong version of InDesign, my version of InDesign, my save the date that is the right proportion for email, but not for Instagram, and my save the date. Oh, did I not? Oh, I probably didn't save it in the right place. Ugh. Yeah, I left it outside. And here, I left it out here. My reveal the gender, save the date. I need to put it in the actual right place. Where do I have it? Gender reveal. I have to do it again. I didn't save it to the right page, which goes to show. Export file, export as 1080. And when I said export, I didn't check to tell it where to go. So I'm going to have it save into the right folder, digital design techniques. I'm going to go find the gender reveal folder, and I'm going to call this one dash Instagram. I had saved it into my Photoshop class files. because that's the last place I had saved. So now when I open my folder, there's my Instagram for printing for Instagram. Okay, my ADML, my other JPEG that I just saved over. So that's why it's not showing my PDF and my save the date. So here's my Instagram version. Good. Now I've done just about every version under the planet for all the different things that I proposed at the beginning. I was going to make a version for out of the one design. I can now publish this in all these different media. Phew. What a technical day again. How's it going? This is not the easiest first class to take, okay? You guys, I'm not going deep into Photoshop, deep Instagram. I'm talking technicalities of printing, publishing, posting. This is the kind of thing that when you start doing some more of your own and you start being better at what you're doing, you go, you know what, if I take this one again, I'm gonna understand a ton more and have a better idea. But it's a great way to begin to understand the good and the bad of the complexity of what needs to happen when you're gonna go more in depth with a digital design. So if you're a bit lost, don't worry, practice, practice, practice. Come back, I'm teaching again in spring, whatever, and then you'll have a whole nother level of understanding to begin. Take the Photoshop, take the Illustrator, you know. All right. Next week, we're going to talk quite a bit more about placing text in all of these programs. We're going to hopefully we're done with this project. We're going to create a different project. I'm going to, you know, if you take a screenshot right now of your bridge folder with all of the different versions that we created here, that would be a really good thing to do so that we can see how we've adapted.
Diana, can you refresh my mind on how you take a screenshot?
Yeah, if you're on a Mac or on a PC.
PC.
Okay. On a PC here, by the way, for the future, if I'm not around, if you go to the Padlet, right here, the first post is how to make a screenshot. Okay. So you can go in here and click on that and it'll work to take you to instructions. But over basically on a Windows, what you can do is use your Windows key, the one that has the 4 little Windows key on the bottom left, plus the Shift, plus the S. And then you can go ahead and drag a box around the area that you want to do. And what this does is it copies. Then you go into Instagram, you click the plus sign, you put your name, and then you click here where it says write something fantastic, and then you paste, and it's going to paste into here. Okay. So it's Windows, Shift S. You're going to get the crosshairs. You're going to drag across it. And if you need a hand with this, if you want to share your screen, you're welcome to do it. Oh, see, I was doing this without sharing. Someone didn't warn me. Okay, so if you go to the Padlet, the first post in our Padlet is how to make a screenshot. And right there, it says Windows, Windows key plus Shift plus S. Okay, and that's where you'll do that. Do you need a hand with that? Then you'll go ahead and
No,
click
I'll
on the
figure it
plus
out.
sign, put your name, and then click under write something fantastic, and that's where you would paste. And since it's an image, it'll paste and it'll show it as an image. Happy to help you out with doing one so that then you can do more. If you want to share, I'll help you with that. And if not, then I won't make you share it. Your choice. Okay, good. So let me go ahead and head over and make your share a little bit bigger so that I can
Diana, I think part of what's happening is I don't see the Padlet necessarily. The
Okay.
chat thing. I've got so many things open, I can't see
yeah, that's fine. So
things behind it.
look, I'm gonna just watch your Zoom. I'm gonna paste
Okay.
in the link right now. Boom, paste. Do you see something in Zoom that popped up anywhere that became a link? Like, do you see your Zoom that is posting? Okay, then, yeah, the one thing I don't see for you is your Zoom. So then if you're not, I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to hit check on Zoom. I'm going to go right now. Do you see in Zoom? No, yeah,
No, I don't.
you're not. Okay. So I don't know where you're hiding Zoom because when you share your screen, I'm seeing everything except for your Zoom. So I can't help you open your chat. If you go to your window where you're seeing me talking, right? Click on my face of me talking, for example. Do you see me talking somewhere?
No, I
That-
just see
that-
the little
that's
text
not
bar
gonna-
up here. See this?
Yeah. Okay. And that little bar, no, I don't, but I know what you're talking. You're seeing a bar that says something like I am sharing my screen, you're viewing.
No, it says mute. It's our little dial.
Oh, okay. If you see mute and all that, okay, go to the right and next to mute, you'll see, you know, start and stop video, keep going to the right. And if you don't see the word chat, then you'll see 3 little dots at the end of that bar. When you click on those little dots, one of those choices will be your chat. Is that working?
Well, I see chat, yeah.
Okay, click on the chat. Good. And in that chat, you'll see that my last 2 posts are a link.
Okay,
Click on that link. And there it is. It just opened your, you see how Digital Line Techniques Fall 2023 just opened up there in your browser.
yeah,
Do you see
and
it?
that was already open somewhere, but that's all right.
Yeah, but it pulled it
Right.
up, right? It's the same one. It didn't open another one. It's the same one. Now, when you click on
Okay.
that, there you go. There's your plus sign at the bottom, and you can now click on that plus sign. And if you've already done the copy, then you can put your name first and then paste. So click on, did you do a copy yet?
No, I was doing that,
Screenshot?
and then we got,
All right. Well,
okay, all right.
it's the Windows Shift and S key. Try, click on the Windows key, the Shift key, and the S key all together. There you go. Now everything goes kind of ghosted, gray. Now go and
Right.
drag across the baby. Again, do it again. Shift S and Windows key, Shift and S. Nope, go back. You started some, yeah, Windows Shift and S. Okay, that's good enough. Just grab that baby. Windows Shift and S, because you're still seeing. If all you want to see is your design, you need to get to that Windows Shift and S. There you go, drag across that. Perfect. Let go. That means that it's been copied. Now go to right above. You can see your Padlet. Click on that. Perfect. Now go ahead and plus sign. Put your name, Julie. And then go to the write something beautiful. Go to the right. Okay. Yeah, that's a good place. And yeah, paste it. And there it is. It's going to paste as an image. And then if you want to write something about it, go for it. And if not, then just publish.
Okay, all right, thank you.
There you go. You're welcome. Now you know how to find the chat. It's in that little bar. It just hides, right?
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Cool. Great. I'll see you next Tuesday morning. Okay. Last week of
Okay.
class. Bye.